Welcome to the Friday Nightmares podcast. I am one half of your hosting team this evening, Heather Powell, coming to you today from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as always, is
Mr. Smokeshow Crawford, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Michigan, chilling in my living room on this beautiful Sunday evening. I was like, we did it. We did our homework and we made it through the second part of these remakes. Wow, that was a lot of
I
work.
don't know why we thought that was a good idea.
I remember when we started talking about this, we're like, oh yeah, we'll just do something nice and fluffy and easy. Boy, were we wrong.
This was the opposite of fluffy and easy. This was challenging and exhausting.
Well worth it with the movies, but good Lord, it was a lot of them.
Oh man. So if you don't already know, our topic is famous horror remakes round 2. We're looking at one-offs in this episode. So last time we talked about franchises, some famous franchises, and we got some incredible feedback. I didn't get a chance to physically respond to him today, and I will later. But Phil, thank you so much for your detailed feedback and reviewing each remake and your thoughts on it. And I really respect the way you review movies, and you never let me down. And points that you brought up, particularly for Nightmare on Elm Street, nothing but respect for your opinion. And I do appreciate that you liked me calling out the Robert Englund fanboys. And I also like that you brought some valid reasons as to why you didn't enjoy that movie or the Rob Zombie one. And I think that's important when you're doing a critique of film. Not that Scott and I are film critics by any stance of the imagination, but I think if you're providing feedback in regards to a film, it's important to talk about what you liked and didn't like in a constructive and clear way. And I think Phil did that in his post. So thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I'll say because I didn't get a chance to read it because I've been so freaking busy today. But I seen
Scott's
part of it
been
and
a Playboy today.
Yeah, player.
His Playboy shirt on today.
That's true. I am all studded up, baby. But yeah, thank you very much, Phil, because I always respect the hell out of your movie opinions, even if I disagree with you on some of them. Like, you always bring valid points, and same with Xander when he replied and gave us that amazing feedback as well.
Yes, thank you, Xander.
Yeah, they both just gave us some incredible feedback on the show, and yeah, we greatly appreciate it. And the fact that you guys take time out of your day to write us a freaking novel of feedback is just incredible.
Yeah, it's really quite awesome. I love it. And I'm dyslexic, so it's very difficult for me to write back. I find it extremely exhausting. I hate texting. I hate messaging. It's just draining for me. But I will be responding. I did respond to Sander already, but I will respond to Phil as well, because I just think that was so thoughtful. And the fact that people listen and care, it still strikes me as odd that people tune in and check us out and listen to Scott and I's unsolicited opinion. Shout outs to Lance from The Horror Returns and Phil and Brian for having me on their March Madness episode, and for Lance letting everyone know that I think you're immature if you don't like remakes. Thanks, Lance. I really appreciated that. It didn't make things awkward at all. You're the man. Thank you, Lance. It's probably because we didn't cover Pet Cemetery. But I had such a good time on that show. I know you did it last year, Scotty.
Yes.
The Horror Returns is a fabulous podcast. They run things so polishedly. We talked about the best, worst movies, and you'll have to listen to see who won. We'll be sharing it to our page for sure. But we had a studded lineup. We had Pedro, who is from LA. We had, of course, Lance and Brian and Phil, as well as we had Carl, as well as we had Cindy, who's from Women in Color, for in horror, and everyone shared different perspectives, so it was a really good time.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to listening to that episode, because when I did it last year, it was just a lot of fun, just a lot of people just shooting the shit, and it brought podcasters from all over together. And that was like I was mentioning when in the post, like that was where Tim Davis and I first started actually chatting by voice, not just through like random messages here and there. So like that was kind of where our friendship started.
So would you say that that's where the love affair began?
Yes, that is pretty much when I got all hot and bothered when I heard his sexy Aussie voice.
All right, so I'm going to take a picture of Scott right now, because you got to see this man right now. He is so done up, and I actually stopped sharing the screen so I can take a screenshot of him. Honestly, he looks like a baller. Scott, do a pose. Let's have a pose here. There we go. Here he is. Yeah. So anyway, for all of you guys who are not aware, Scott had a big day today. I won't go into too much detail of it, but let's just say he was a busy man today. And he is just looking so darn dapper in his like outfit right now. He's got this maroon dress shirt on. His beard is freshly trimmed. And he's just looking like he's like a playboy, like he's gonna go to the Playboy Mansion later. Do you have plans to go see bunnies later, Scott? Is that what you're doing?
I mean, damn straight. I'm gonna be taken into the new position of Hugh Hefner.
Oh, that's right. You'd be so funny as Hugh Hefner. Do you guys like horror movies? And do you like video games? Because my name's Scott Crawford. And do you guys know how much my pro magic?
I was just gonna say that too.
Speaking of that, we should probably talk about our newest adventure.
Yes, we shall. Do you want me to go ahead and bring it up?
You go ahead and bring it up, you dapper man, you.
You. But so yes, by the time this episode comes out, we should hopefully have our very first episode of Controllers Up, Cards Down, the All-Star Gaming Podcast, which is a once-a-month show with me, Heather, and some of you may remember him from the podcast By the Cemetery, but Tim. He is joining us. This will be once a month show where we are basically just going to be doing talking about all things gaming, not just video games, but we're talking board games, card games, tabletop games, trivia games. We're wanting to cover it all.
You play in relationships. Just kidding. We're not talking about those games.
Mind games. But yeah, we're covering it all. And we want to also have a rotating guest on every single episode to bring a different perspective and a different game that they like to talk about and share it. So we've already got a couple people interested in the show, which is awesome. But yeah, we've already got someone that plays D&D that's going to come on and talk about D&D. We got someone that's a big fan of some certain board games. They're going to talk about that. We got all sorts like retro gaming. We're going to probably talk about Magic since Tim and I both play Magic. But it's a 3-act podcast where we're basically just going to be doing news and releases for all games. We're going to have a second segment, which is brought to us by the wonderful Miss Heather Powell. What is that?
It's Retro Table, and we're going to be looking at the TV show, the famous Canadian TV show, Video and Arcade Top 10, that was on from 1991 to 2006.
Yep, and then we're going to watch one episode and talk about that episode and like what they show and everything, and we
take a walk down memory lane.
Yep, pretty much. And then our third segment is going to be kind of like our first impressions, like what we've been playing type deal. So it would be like reviews, like what we could be playing a video game, a board game, or whatever. We'll just talk about it there and just hopefully and we'll share trailers and like links to those things on our Facebook page, which, yes, we also have a Facebook page called Controllers Up.
Of course we do.
Controllers Up, Cards Down, All-Star Gaming Podcast. But yes, this is not only going to be an audio podcast, but this is also going to be a video podcast on YouTube. And thanks to our wonderful boss man himself, Bo Ransdale, he has put in a lot of awesome work and making the video look really cool with a lot of graphics and effects. So yeah, we are going to be hopefully dropping that sometime this week, and I hope you guys listen and check it out. We would love to hear your feedback. It's going to be on its own feed on Legion, as far as I know, or it'll be under the Legion feed, one of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just like a fun little once a month project that we wanted to do to bring like something different to the network that's not really talked about, and we wanted to be all inclusive by including all these different games.
And that's not horror, because in all fairness, like, it's great that we all talk about horror, but sometimes you need a break. You need a break from horror.
Yeah.
We're so awkward. This is like our first podcast all over again.
I know, for some reason, my internet has been acting stupid today.
You know why? Because it knows what you've been up to today with your... See, the problem is you don't usually dress this nice when we record. Usually you don't have on this really nice dress shirt and like your beard's done. And you're not even wearing your glasses, for goodness sake. I don't even know who you are anymore. Are you even Scott Crawford, or is this an impersonator? Is this the Bobby Snatchers?
This is the true embodiment of Smokeshow.
The Smokeshow has finally emerged. So a couple other shout outs that we should give is that we also did Lost After Dark commentary with Mr. Bo.
Yes, we did.
That's been posted to the page. It was released first on Legion Patreon, so if you're not a Patreon member, get on that. But we also released it to our regular page, as well as Scotty was on Exploding Heads this morning.
Yes, I was, and oh boy, there were lots of exploding heads. I tell you
pow,
what.
Pow, 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 pow.
But yeah, they had me on as a guest. Mr. Brandon Orlick kept me a secret. So Dave and Christian were kind of guessing on who
Well, Brandon only talks like two people, so they probably knew who it was.
Well, Christian thought it was Jason Smith.
Oh.
And Dave actually had written in the notes on his phone that he showed on the screen, and he said guest question mark SC. So he knew it was me. But yeah, it was a freaking blast because that was the first time I've ever got to work with all three of them together. I've talked about it before, but it's one of the shows that got me into podcasting, like and loving horror podcasts. So it was just an honor to be on their show, and it was such a blast. We ended up reviewing The Babadook and Son. And yeah, it was just lots of jokes being had, like in typical Exploding Heads fashion. And, us making fun of Brandon because it's Brandon.
Because it's Brandon. That's what he's there for.
Exactly. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys for having me on because that was just an absolute freaking blast. And also, because Scotty has been busy this week with lots of stuff. So I ended up also. But I ended up also releasing it also just got released this week, the Psychosemantic podcast with Darren. We ended up talking The Watchmen and just talking random things, and we pretty much just went on a million different tangents, and that was such a blast. So I hope you guys listen to that as well.
Yes. So now that we're done telling you how amazing we are on all our other podcasts. And how you should listen to only us and just us. We'll break into our 2021 watches. We don't have a lot this week because Scott and I doubled down on remakes and decided that was a good idea. And Scotty did watch more, but I told him he wasn't allowed to share them until I watched them. So it's a small list this week, but it's a mighty list. Because the first one is almost, 4 hours in length?
4.5 hours.
So the first one on our 2020 list is In the Search of Darkness Part 2. This is a documentary that just dropped. And for those of you who watched In the Search of Darkness last year, you'll remember that they talked, I would say, basically the heavy hitters, right? Like it was probably the big franchisees that people had heard of before. And In the Search of Darkness 2, they went way deep. Like they talked about what's that one that we had to watch on not The Horror Returns? About the castle.
The Keep.
The Keep. The Keep was on there, for example. And this hasn't had an official release on a channel yet. I assume it's eventually going to be on Shudder.
I believe it's dropping on Shudder at the end of April, from what I heard.
End of April. It is totally worth the watch, but it is a very long watch at 263 minutes in length. So it does take some time to get through. Did you want to share some thoughts on it, Scotty?
Yeah, because like you and I both were watching this and like, holy crap, like they go deep with a lot of these films. Like, I've heard of a lot of this stuff like growing up, but like there is shit that they go into that I've never even heard of. Or I actually started writing down the list, like I don't have on me right now, but I've been actually writing down a list so I can check these movies out. Cause like there's a bunch of cool ones from these like 80s films that I've never seen before. And they dive pretty deep into Italian horror too, which they just kind of scratched the surface of on the first movie. So like, yeah, they had like new guests on, some more of the same guests from the last time, but all sorts of movies were brought up and talked about in this. And like fantastic documentary. This was incredible, especially if you're going to go for 4.5 hours. That is a hard task to keep someone invested for that long. And I was invested from beginning to end. I just soaked all this up.
Yeah, it was it's a really solid documentary. I think it'll be hard for any other documentaries to knock this off the top tier. So please check it out when it drops on Shudder. The next one, I'll let Scotty talk about that one. Scotty.
All right. So the next one is Son from 2021. And the synopsis is, when a young boy contracts a mysterious illness, his mother must decide how far she will go to protect him from terrifying forces in her past. It stars Andy Matichek and Emil Hirsch. I really did enjoy this movie. I actually talk about it on the Exploding Heads podcast because that was the one we reviewed. When I went into it, because I watched it twice, once to watch it for this and then once to watch it for their show with more attention being paid to it. And both times I came out really liking it. Then I go on to Exploding Heads And some very astute points were brought up by Brandon, Dave, and Christian that I didn't catch that kind of brought it down for me. But I still, in general, enjoyed this, like, and thought it's worth watching because it's pretty twisted, especially with the ending, the way it all plays out.
I wasn't a big fan of this. Scotty knows this. I think it's a well acted film. I think it's a well made film. The story for me was just lacking. For me personally, I don't think it's a bad story. I actually don't. I think it's actually a pretty good story. I just didn't love it. It hasn't dropped officially yet anywhere, so it's just screeners. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be the YouTube, Prime, Google Play areas that you can find this movie. Is that correct, Scott? Do you know anything different?
Yeah, I believe it's actually available now on Prime, like because you know how
Well, it's
Exploding
not
Heads
coming
are.
up here.
Well, maybe not in Canadian Prime. Maybe. I mean,
I check Letterbox all the time.
Oh,
Scotty, check
that's
to see
right.
if it's on Prime.
Yeah, I'm checking right now.
Because if it's not on Prime, just like Show's Bids Pizza and Chuck E. Cheese, which by the way has affected a lot of people, they're pretty crush to know that Chuck E. Cheese was before Show Bids Pizza.
But which shows also the popularity of Showbiz Pizza for us in the U.S.
Yes, for you people.
You people.
You people. It's on Amazon for rent, son?
Yes.
Okay. So you can rent it on Amazon if you choose to. I would say probably no more than a $3.99 rental in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say $3.99 to $5.99. I would say go for it. Some people may like
that, guys, because he's wearing a dress shirt and he's suave now, and he's a baller. Okay,
well, only the most suave and dapper podcasters will recommend this movie.
Clearly, yes. The next movie is a foreign film, and it is called The Lift or Ascendor. It is more science fiction-y than it is anything else. Have you seen this one, Scotty?
Nope, this is one I did not get a chance to get to this week.
Oh, well, la-di-da. Look at that. So this movie is basically about a couple who, on their anniversary, have this fight that play over and over again in the elevator until they realize they're in a time warp and things are not what they seem.
Let's do the time warp again.
And then they break into song, and that's just how it goes. It's definitely something that it's small cast. There's literally two of them in one voiceover. So I will give the two actors credit because they really do have to play off each other the entire time, which I do think shows some pretty good talent. It is available on Prime for free. It is included. So I definitely recommend it as a free watch. It's a 70-minute runtime, so you're not going to waste a lot of time with it. Do I think it's overly horror? No, I don't. I think it's more science fiction. There's one kind of horror scene to it, but it's fun. It's a really fun movie, and there's some really clever dialogue, so I'd recommend checking it out.
Yep, I hope to watch this one really soon, and we found something out with this one. This one is only available on Canadian Prime right now.
Oh, that's right.
It's not available for us yet. For once, Canada's got something before us.
For once. It will probably be available on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, so you could probably find it from those areas.
Yep.
Just because it's not a Prime exclusive, I don't think, so it should be available on other means.
Yep, I'd say, I'm definitely going to be trying to watch this soon, just to check it out, because I hear it's interesting.
It is interesting. I think you'll enjoy it. Scotty.
I will.
Dapper Scotty.
Dapper man.
If you can, lower yourself to us of the commoners, yes, that would be nice.
I will bring myself back down. But I guess we could jump on to, this is going to shock everyone, the final 2021 movie.
I know.
For this episode.
People are like, but where's the rest of the movies? The rest of the movies are remakes.
Yes. We did this all for you, podcast listeners.
It's like us at the top of the building.
It's all for you. It's
all for Friday Nightmares. Anyway, sorry, Scott.
All right. So the final movie for our 2021 watches is Safer at Home. 2 years into the pandemic, a group of friends throw an online party with a night of games, drinking, and drugs. After taking an ecstasy pill, things go terribly wrong, and the safety of their homes become more terrifying than the raging chaos outside. Man, this movie, very realistic and hit home pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Scott does a lot of E's, so it was really affecting him a lot.
God damn it.
He's like, stop it. My mom listens to this podcast. It's an 82-minute runtime. I believe this is coming to Shudder, isn't it?
No, I think this one is on Prime.
Is it on Prime? Okay. So yeah, Letterboxd isn't up to date. Usually they're pretty good with telling me where to watch things, but I'm not seeing that with these. Some people have been really harsh on this movie. I think because they were thinking, oh, it just ripped off Host. This is nothing like Host. Besides you
No.
and Zoom. Like that is the only thing that is similar. The concept's very different, and it's a very hard look at the pandemic. So I kind of want to give a little bit of a warning here. If you are feeling high in anxiety about COVID-19, we are a year into COVID-19. Well, the effects of COVID-19, and you are somewhere where perhaps there's curfews in place, or where there's a higher amount of fear or concern. Perhaps this movie may be something you should skip over for now.
Yeah, I was gonna give that disclaimer because this is very realistic, and like I said, it's gonna make some people like really uncomfortable and raise their anxiety.
Yes. So I very well done though, extremely well acted, well written, well delivered, especially through Zoom screens, which is how it's filmed. I personally think it did a better job of doing that than the Host did. I think the Host was first, and it has the Host to thank for doing that, but this is pretty good.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I like the way this is done because this feels more like what you and I and other podcasters have done during this whole quarantine pandemic, where it says we're just getting on to shoot the shit and have fun and drink and just chat like we're hanging out in person, but we're through our Zoom calls. And like that's what this is just a bunch of friends that can't see each other are getting together, because in this movie the pandemic has been going on for 2 years now, and like there is extremely strict curfews now where you can't leave your house at night at all, and like it's just like
which we have in the province of Quebec, or did.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. Now, not to the extent that you got jailed. You got a ticket,
right?
Which is probably more effective because no one wants to pay a $750 fine,
right?
But yeah, like I have no. That's why I said there are places that have curfews that have implemented it, right? So it is, and it really does. This movie is very brave because it talks about the side effects of the pandemic and what it can do to people. And I think that takes a lot of courage, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, especially right now.
Because we're right in the middle of it. But yeah, I think this movie is excellent. I think it's really well done. I think it's an excellent horror suspense film. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Do I think it's top 10 material? No, but I think it definitely deserves an acknowledgement at the end of the year. And who knows, it might be up for an award.
And we'll see. I could see it being on some people's top 10s.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe some people will put it on their top 10. I guess I just think of like certain podcasters, and I know that they would put it on their top 10. But I wouldn't say this is the worst movie I've ever watched. But you gotta like social media horror, and you gotta be down with the whole Zoom unfriended, like Host kind of theme. If you like that, you'll like this. If you didn't like that, you're probably not gonna like this. Or if you've done on that in COVID, you're probably not gonna like this. So just know that going into it.
Yep, and I did look, and yes, it's available to rent on Amazon right now.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think it's worth the price. Whatever you pay to rent it, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, this is definitely like one I was really impressed with, and I'll give you a little sneak peek. But Tim, he was watching it with me, and like when things started going down, he turned his back to the screen and just played on his phone because he's like, "Nope, I can't do this. This is too much. This is making me way too anxious." So like, and that
had
goes
nothing
to
to
show,
do
like,
with Scott staring at him, being like, "We're in this together, right, Tim?"
Oh, staring at him. What do you mean? I had my arms wrapped around him, pulling him close.
We're safer at home.
Shh. Just let it happen, Tim. Shh.
Tim's like, I need an adult. And it's because you couldn't find one of your cats, so you had to snuggle him at the time.
Exactly. I needed a cuddle buddy.
You needed somebody. So yeah, we definitely recommend it, and that's it for 2021 watches. But don't worry, we will be back in the saddle soon.
Giggity.
I did watch like some of the ones that Scott had suggested. So I did watch Willy's Wonderland, which I did think was really funny, Scott. You were right. That one was quite entertaining. And I Blame Society. So I did manage to catch up with him on some stuff that he had watched that I had missed. But yeah, definitely I enjoyed Willy's Wonderland. Nick Cage, less annoying role is what I'll say for that one.
Yes, a very, very good point.
Like he wasn't super annoying, and I do enjoy animatronics to come alive. I do find that really funny, actually.
I knew that would be one you would have a lot of fun with.
It's a good movie. It was nice to turn your brain off.
Yeah.
So for older watches, there's two on here. One was a movie that sadly just left Prime, so you're going to have to find it through other means, but it was called Stag Night. And this year, I've been checking out some subway horror. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you're aware, Scott, but there's a lot of movies about horror that occurs in a subway. I saw one earlier this year called Creep. I'm sure you remember the scene in the first oh my goodness, the one where Art the Clown came out in All Hallows
Oh,
Eve.
yeah, All Hallows Eve. Yep.
Right, the first story was in a subway, and then this one called Stag Night. Basically, it's a group of dudes that are out for Stag Night, and their buddies getting married, and so last night on the town they catch the last subway train. Something happens on the train. They end up getting off at a stop where no one is there, and then chaos occurs. And
Mm.
it's a pretty gory film.
Wow,
And
really?
and it's the ending is a little similar to the movie Creep that I watched that was also about a subway. Or not Subway the restaurant, by the way, Subway as in the subway.
Subway, eat fresh.
But this was a pretty good film. I actually really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. Unfortunately, it has left Canadian Prime, but it may still be on American Prime. It's definitely a $2.99 or $1.99 rental, and it's an 84-minute runtime. Came out in 2008. So if you miss this gem and you enjoy kind of like I would say kind of survival horror, then it's definitely up your alley. And cannibalism, if you dig cannibalism, you'll probably dig this movie.
Yeah, it
So,
looks like yep, Stag Night is on Prime in the US.
is it still on Prime in the US?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're looking for something older and fun, and then Harbinger Down is a 2015 movie, 82 minutes in length. I watched this movie and at first I'm like, oh man, this is going to be the biggest piece of crap that has ever existed. It's going to be horrible. It wasn't. Man, was this not a piece of crap? And it's available on Tubi.
Nice. Yeah, because I remember why, because I think you mentioned it to me. I'm going, that movie sounds familiar. I remember why. The effects crew from the Thing prequel that came out in 2011, they were the ones that did all the effects for the Thing creature in that. And when Universal got it and got their hands on it, they completely covered all of their work with CGI, so you couldn't even see any of their animatronics they made. So they were pretty upset, which I don't blame them, and actually decided to direct their own movie, which ended up being Harbinger Down, where
Is that
they
what
were
it's
able.
Harbinger Down? I
Yep.
said it wrong then. Harbinger Down.
And yeah, they ended up making this movie to show off their special effects.
And let me tell you, they certainly do. Like, I was watching this film and I was like, the acting's like, okay, all right. And then the special effects happened and I was like, oh my God.
I will have to watch this.
Like, I was like, I was seriously like, is this the same film? Like, how did they get these special effects? Because it was fucking crazy. Like, it was nuts how good these special effects were. And, for the movie, like, you're watching this movie and I'm like, wow, this is like Thing quality, but not the Thing. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was I definitely will have to watch this thing because for some reason it just slipped my mind what the name of this was.
And I really do think it's Lovecraftian, but you can watch it and tell me.
Yeah, I'll say if it has like creatures similar to the Thing, then yeah, that's Lovecraft because even the Thing is Lovecraftian.
Okay, so the acting is so, but the special effects make up for this, and it's a free watch on Tubi. So I definitely recommend it, and it was definitely a dark horse that I did not see coming. So check it out if you get a chance to.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that one out then. And I was trying to go. I'll jump into my older watches, but I was trying to go with our theme for the episode and doing originals and remakes. I unfortunately did not get a chance to get to the remake of this one yet, but I decided to watch the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
which is what we think has happened to Scott today.
Yes, it's the invasion of the Smokeshow. But yep, from 1954, and it's a small town doctor learns that the population of his community is being replaced by emotionless alien duplicates. Man, I am not the biggest fan of like these older 50s movies. Holy shit, the performances in this were incredible. And for the original story is like a hokey B movie plot, like sci-fi B movie plot with this. But man, the story was really good. The acting was great. Had some pretty creepy elements, and like I just all around really dug this film a lot. And like I was completely shocked because I thought I would just be like, oh, I can respect it, but it's not my kind of jam. No, this is something I will go back and rewatch at some point because this was just really, really well done. Like, and it was super easy to watch.
I got to check this out because we watched another 1950 movie on here that I did not think I was going to enjoy. I was dreading watching it, and I dug it.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think you will really, really dig this one as well. Like,
I think I will too.
It's really well done. And hopefully by the next episode, I will have watched the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake with
Donald Sutherland.
Yes.
Ow! I'm like biting my fist how he was in the 70s. Damn. I was born in the wrong generation.
Apparently
Chris
so.
Sarandon and Donald Sutherland. I had boyfriends from the 1970s and 80s. I don't even know that.
And have you seen the remake from the 70s?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I have not either, and I'm very curious on that one. I've heard so many good things.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good. I hear both are good, so yeah.
Yep. No, well then, yeah, I'll jump into the next one, which I'm just gonna kind of lump these together because it's all just kind of one long story. But it's I will basically say the Annabelle trilogy. So Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. I'm only missing one movie now from the whole Conjuring Wandaverse or whatever you want to call it. So I will get to that at some point as well. But yeah, I decided to finally watch all three
What's the
of
one
these.
you're missing? The Crystal Lorna?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the only one I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But wow, I was pretty impressed with this little trilogy here. Like,
yeah, I think it's a great introductory to horror trilogy. People
absolutely.
Did you listen to the Exploding Heads podcast review it with Lacey, Lou, and Carly?
I sure did.
And yeah, they did a good job of reviewing it. I didn't agree with all their points, but they did a very good job of talking about it.
Yes, and I am a complete agreement with Brandon that Annabelle Comes Home is my favorite. Mm-hmm. I just loved that one because it just brought in all these different supernatural creatures, and like it was all just done in the house, and had some really good effective scares. Like, and it was, like you said, it's a perfect introductory trilogy to horror for someone that's new to horror.
Absolutely.
And I don't get the complaints about, like, I don't understand the hate the first Annabelle gets, because I think that was a pretty decent little spin-off, and Annabelle Creation was a period piece, which was really well done with the telling of the prequel story.
Very
like,
strong film.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed with this little trilogy. Like, I went in thinking, oh, I'm not going to enjoy any of these, and yeah, came out very pleasantly surprised. Like, they were all fun.
You know, it's funny because I wish I had watched them in the order that they are actually made in or how the story goes. Yes. I wish I had seen Creation first, followed up by Annabelle, followed up by Annabelle Comes Home. I really do have a beef with how they were released. I think that you're at a deficit if you watch it not in that order, because they flow into each other fairly well. And now they do a good job in each movie of showing a clip from the previous film. Yeah. Like, they do connect them. I will give them credit for that. I just think that a lot of people shit on this series because they don't follow the storyline as how it goes. And yes, it is light horror. I know it's rated R, as Exploding Heads talked about, but I feel like it's a light rated R. Like, I would never watch either of these movies and be like, oh man, like, kids couldn't handle this. Probably.
I was honestly shocked to find out they were rated R, because I just assumed they were PG-13.
Well, and Dave C made an excellent point. I just listened to the podcast today, so which is why it's so fresh in my head. Dave C made a point about how, no one wants to make that PG-13 movie. So they made it rated R so that they could basically get more people watching it. And honestly, that's a real shame, because I don't think it needed to be rated R. I think it was absolutely fine being a PG-13 movie. And I really wish people would get off their high little horror horse and not and have this beef against PG-13 fucking horror movies. Like, it's so juvenile. See, there's something else you can tell people, Lance. Tell people I think that they're juvenile if they don't if they criticize PG-13 movies.
Yeah, and I will say, I used to be one of those, like, oh, PG-13 horror is stupid. And then I'm looking at, like, when I'm, doing, like, the first time watches, and then, stuff that I did before, we did the show, and watching them, I'm going, they're not stupid at all. They are just a different kind of horror that don't need to be blood and guts and swearing and nudity.
Or maybe it's just an entry level. Like, maybe you don't want your kid watching that to start off with, or maybe someone has a lighter stomach or they don't like swearing. Like, anyway, I think the Annabelle series is quite good. I think that it's, I don't put it up there as one of the best series of all time, but I
No.
think as an entry gateway horror, I think those three films are great gateway horror. I really do. I think they're easy, they're consumable. You're not exhausted when you get out of them. They're decent run times and they're quick. And
Yes.
they do the job. They do some decent jump scares. Yes, there's some like shitty things and stupid things that happen in the movies. That happens in every single fucking horror movie. Like, it's you kind of got to forgive certain things or you wouldn't have a plot line. But yeah, I'm glad you dug them, and I'm glad you're halfway or more than halfway now. I guess just one movie left for the Wanna universe or the Conjuring universe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'll say I'm slowly just trying to knock out all these different franchises and universes that are being made apparently, and just kind of just like build my horror cred, if you will.
Oh man, and with this mauve shirt, I'm sharing that picture to our page later.
Do it.
Like everyone's got to know what the smoke show is packing. Here we are, a year into quarantine, and Scott's like, "I got this shit, bitches. You see this?
This.
You missing out. You had your chance with Scotty. You missed it. You missed it." And I'm in the background going, "Yeah,
Count.
yeah." That's my
Count,
role.
girl.
That's all my role. That's all I do is I just yell "yeah" in the back.
You're my hype man.
Yeah, I'm your hype man. That's it. That's the only role I have. Just so we're clear. So what we've been listening to. So I have been binging on Short Bus Cinema with
Yes.
Ricky Morgan and John Kruger. And oh my God, these guys are hilarious. This show is available on the Legion Podcast Network. They cover all sorts of movies, and they just make fun of the movie. And I I feel like I'm in love with Ricky Morgan, but not in love with Ricky Morgan. Does that make sense? Ricky Morgan is a happily married man, so I don't want to come across like I'm creepy. But I like I'm totally like a Ricky Morgan, like Ricky fangirl. Like I really am. Like I could get a T-shirt that says "I Heart Ricky."
He's one of my man crushes.
Isn't he? He's just, and his accent. Okay, he has like the funniest Southern accent in the entire world. One of my favorite episodes so far, Short Bus Cinema, is where they talk about the Kiss movie, where Kiss enters a theme park and they're going to play this concert. It's like Phantom of the Kiss.
Yeah, Phantom of the Park.
Oh my God, him making fun of that movie is hilarious, and dude can sing.
Yes. Oh, did you ever find that Kiss song that he covered?
He sent it to me actually.
Oh, it is so good.
I don't want to brag or anything, but Ricky and I are pretty close.
It's because Ricky is a badass,
right? Like he's like, Heather, you're a cool chick. I'm like, I know, I am. He's like, I'm gonna send you pictures of me and my band or videos of me and my band singing. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, he's got an incredible voice.
Oh man, like like really good. I was like, Ricky, what the fuck are you not doing in music? Like professionally, you're good enough that you could be that level. So if you enjoy having some good laughs, you love hearing two dudes make fun of a movie that's absolutely ridiculous, please check out Short Bus Cinema on the Legion Podcast Network.
Yes, that is a great show. So much fun. Pretty much anything Ricky does, I just freaking love because his personality just gets you so hyped. Even if it's for one of the most terrible movies in the world, he just gets you so hyped about it because just the way he talks about it, it's infectious the way he talks.
His energy is contagious.
It absolutely is, and I freaking love the man. But yeah, the show that I am going to talk about is also on the Legion Podcast Network, and that is the Mystery Vault Podcast, which at this moment has released 4 episodes. But it is a solo cast hosted by RJ McCready from Bite Size Cinema. And he basically is covering pretty much all these different mysteries. He's starting off with cryptids, so like Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and just kind of going really far in depth, doing a lot of research and finding all this information to present on the podcast. And I love listening about these urban legends and basically cryptids. I love hearing this stuff. So it's awesome that he decided to do this show. And plus, he's Australian, so I think he's Australian in that accent. But yes, I definitely recommend this podcast. I have binged all 4 episodes so far. I am really digging it, and I cannot wait for the next one. And he's going to go into even more lesser known mysteries like that won't be really involving cryptids, but he's been like saying there'll be a lot more just like deep dives of things that people may not have heard about before. So I'm excited to find out what those are because I just love hearing this type of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's and it's nice to see these new podcasts. Also, the The controllers up, cards down. All-Star Gaming Podcast coming to the Legion Podcast Network.
Yes. Giving us a nice variety on the network, that's for sure.
That's true. And, Scott and I are leaders in that. So we just have to make sure we let everybody know how awesome we are. Right, Scotty?
That's right. And I was saying, I mean, look at us. Look how awesome we are.
Like, look at the mauve shirt. Don't worry, you guys will all see it. I'll send it to the page, and you'll see this amazing shirt that Scotty is wearing right now. But please check out all joking aside, please check out all the awesome podcasts on the Legion Network, and please hit subscribe on whether it's Podbean, Stitcher, Apple iTunes Podcast, Google Play, whatever it is. I think Google Play is the podcast feed. Yeah. Please subscribe to the Legion Podcast Network. We have tons of stuff out there for you to listen to. But in the meantime, why don't we hear from one of our fellow Legion friends? So after these messages, we'll be right back.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The two lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VD Clinic Pod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VD Clinic Pod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
Welcome back. And our main topic today is going to be on remakes. Now, if you've listened to our franchise episode, which we did previously, there was an article where we talked about why people do remakes. So if you haven't listened to that yet, I would encourage you to go back. If you're like, no, Heather, you can't tell me what to do. The short form of what the articles talked about is remakes are made for a couple of main reasons. One is to keep rights to films. So in order to avoid losing rights, you do a remake to keep them. Another reason is because they're usually a sure cash grab, and there's nothing wrong with making money, people. So if you're going to make a remake, dollar, that way you know that you will have a steady income coming through for the remakes. Might allow you to fund other projects down the road, or you might just have a really creative idea to take a remake or take a movie that was made at a certain time and bring it into a new time period and to get new fans interested in the genre. So if you're interested in learning more about those articles, including some links to some lectures by a professor that talks about the value of remakes, then you can go back to our previous episode and listen to that. If not, or you can listen to it when you're done here. Whatever, you do you. But Scotty is going to take us into our first film, who really did take a new look at this film when it was remade in the 80s. So Scotty, why don't you start us off?
The first movie for our topic tonight is going to be The Thing from Another World, which was initially released on April 6, 1951. The synopsis is, the crew of a remote Arctic base fights off a murderous monster from outer space. Then we are going to also talk about its remake, The Thing, released June 25th, 1982. In remote Antarctica, a group of American research scientists are disturbed at their base camp by a helicopter shooting at a sled dog. When they take in the dog, it brutally attacks both human beings and canines in the camp, and they discover the beast can assume the shape of its victims. A resourceful helicopter pilot and the camp doctor lead the camp crew in a desperate, gory battle against the vicious creature before it picks them all off one by one. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to look at the synopsis. They're making it sound like the dog is the monster throughout the whole movie. No, the dog is not. Dog is just one part.
I'm just kidding.
The dog is the catalyst, let's just say.
So, sorry, are you done reading the synopsis?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I got excited to talk about The Thing from Another World, which I never thought I'd be so excited to talk about a movie from 1951.
Right?
But I totally am. So, I have been notorious for criticizing people who don't like remakes. And I have been like, well, the thing's so popular. What about the thing from another world? Assuming that I was going to walk into the thing from another world thinking it was a piece of shit. Like, I just assumed I was not going to like it. And nothing could be further from the truth. I loved this movie. Like, I loved the thing from another world. And I think what I really appreciated about this movie is it's made in 1951. The dialogue in this movie was entertaining as anything.
Yes. And the acting was incredible.
It was incredible. And we got to remember how things are filmed in 1951. They don't have the wide end lenses. They don't have all the tricks and stuff that they had in 1982. This is a 30-year gap between when these movies were made. And the way that, so we have the opening scene where a journalist, Ned Scott, shows up at an Air Force club where he meets these other Air Force Army men, and it's very typical, like, I guess you could argue it's sexist conversations.
Yeah, machismo talk.
You can forgive. It's 1951. Like, you can't. It is what it is. That just
it's a product of its time.
It's a product of its time, right? But it was really built the relationships between the gentlemen that were there. When they go up to the landing, which is Antarctica, the Arctic base or whatever it is, there's two women there that are definitely strong roles.
Yeah.
They're not just there for eye candy. Like, they have a strong role. There's even a great banter between one of the females and the main captain, because I guess they had a romantic affair. She had pieced, and they went back and forth with each other, and it was really awesome. Like, I really enjoyed the dialogue and the way she interacted with him. Like, you bought into everybody's character.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, because just like you, I also went into this going, oh, this is just going to be hokey and cheesy. Like a lot of the 50s sci-fi B-movie style movies from that time are just that. They're hokey, cheesy, probably worth, a little bit of entertainment, but like I didn't expect this to actually be as good and like as well done and well acted, and also just like the story, like,
or the filming, like when they see the saucer, which was something that happened in the Thing remake, by the way.
Yeah.
The whole like viewing of the area, and they walk around, they're like, oh my God. And they kind of stand in a big circle and they're like, we found it. We found a saucer. Their excitement seems legitimate. Like, they are actually very excited to find this item. And they take it back to the camp and they store it, and then weird shit starts to happen. And the special effects, there's one scene where the thing, they try to burn it, which is a theme of what they do in the remake. And the fire where this stuntman got caught on fire in 1951 is incredible.
Yes, I think, like I was telling you when I watched this, that I thought like the fire stunt in this is good or better than a lot of the fire stunts that have been done. Yeah, it's incredible what they did with it. And like, because he's not like, it's not easy being a stuntman and being caught on fire and being able to like control your movements and do it without panicking. And doing something like that, especially at that time where it was probably like, nowadays they probably have more ways of putting out the fire fast, where back then it might have just been like a fire extinguisher or like putting
and the whole set cuts on fire.
Yeah,
they catch a whole bunch of shit on fire.
Yeah, like this, it's incredible what they did with this.
And now we had fire in the 1982 remake. And let's make this clear. I'm not taking anything away from the 1982 remake. The 1982 remake special effects are out of this world. But I'm sorry, I find the fire scene in 1951 way more impressive, just because of how much more difficult that would have been to do in 1951.
Because in 1982's version, they are catching special effects on fire, like handmade things where it's not a human in costume. Each that stuff on fire and not have to worry. But you're worrying about a human life, like a stuntman's human life. Just
running in flames.
I do just want to bring up like
flames. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. And obviously there is a lot of well-deserved fucking love for the 82 version because of everything this movie had did. That is the one thing I like about the remake better than the original, is the creature in this remake is completely different.
Yes.
Where it is basically turns into like a whodunit, because it builds up a level of paranoia when you're already isolated and trapped in a cold winter, where there
Yes.
is no paranoia in the first movie of
No.
who is
No.
who, because you know who everybody is in that movie.
Yeah, and no one is like the creature is the creature, right? The creature is walking around in a suit.
Yeah.
Right. And there's one guy that's obsessed with the creature and has that one scene where he's like, no, we won't hurt you. We want to learn from you. And the creature's like, fuck that.
Right.
Right. And but I agree. I think what the remake did really well is it's definitely played on the isolation factor of it, played on who you did not know who the thing could be. This is a situation where I really think they respected the original, even with like the subtle little things like breaking the window.
Yep.
They broke the window in the first one to keep the room cool, and the window was broken in the remake to kind of deal with shooting the dog or whatever it was. There was something that was the aggravator at the beginning where they were shooting.
Yep, the Norwegian pilot.
And then the dog comes in, and the scene where the dog walks into the kennel area with all the other dogs is extremely well done. The special effects there and the practicality of it is out of this world good. And as much as I do respect Kurt Russell as an actor, and I'm not insulting him when I say this, he kind of is the same person in a lot of movies. Like he's angry and standoffish and smart asses, but he plays it well, and he plays it well here. You definitely know that he's kind of the smart one of the group, and people think he's the thing and he's not the thing, and he ties them all up, and those scenes are great. And I can definitely see why The Thing from Another World was remade, but I really have a lot of value for that original one that I didn't think I was going to have.
Yep, same here. Like my undying love for The Thing from 1982. I was gonna be like, am I going to be able to go back now and watch the original one and enjoy it as a separate movie? Or am I going to be like, oh, the 82 version's better, blah, blah, blah. No, it's different. It's so different while still being the same. Pretty much they just kept the setting and the story idea.
Yeah, there was some definitely, and there was some great callbacks, right? Like the fire scene, the breaking of the window.
From what I heard,
the flying the saucer, finding like the outline of the flying saucer. Like there was some great callbacks that they did.
Yeah, from what I heard, John Carpenter absolutely loves The Thing from Another World, and that's why he wanted to remake it. And a little just nerdy thing for me to spout out here, and I'm sure some others have noticed this, but in the original Halloween, The Thing from Another World is playing on the TV when Laurie is babysitting the kids, and the kids are watching it right after they went trick-or-treating.
That's interesting, because I don't think a child would sit through that movie, but that's okay.
Right.
But I think one of my favorite things at the end of The Thing from Another World, and I just want to point this out because I really like the ending. Of course, it's a happy ending as opposed to The Thing, which you kind of know that is not a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I love how the newscaster gets onto the airway, and he makes a comment about the captain's busy right now with other business, and it's because he's sitting with the girl that he's been reconnected with, and they're chatting away. I thought it was really cute and classy. And his final lines are, "Tell the world. Tell this to everyone, wherever they are. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking, keep watching the skies." And that was very much from the 1950s, right? That was very much the idea that we are not alone. There are aliens. They're coming. They're here. And I think what the remake did was kind of embed that fear deeper. That they're here and they can be us and they're not going anywhere. And we can't predict who they are. We can't see who they are. And the blood petri dishes, having to go through that kind of extremity to figure out who is the quote unquote thing. Was quite smart, and the different characters that were in it. I feel like these movies are both very strong. I don't know if I prefer one over the other. I think this was a remake that should have been remade because it gave props to the original but expanded on the story, and there was a big enough gap that you could do things that couldn't have been done in 1951. Now, mind you, I like all remakes, or at least respect why remakes are made.
Yeah.
So I would say that about anything, but I don't think you could put one over top of the other here. I think they're both masterpieces and they deserve to be seen.
Yep, I completely agree. And the fact that they are both different enough to where you don't even have to compare them. Like you don't even feel like you can compare them. And they're both adaptations of the Who Goes There novel. Yeah. Which one of these days I would love to read, because I want to see if the Who Goes There novel, which one is closer to like the adaptation of it. Is The Thing from Another World more closer to the source, or is The Thing 1982 closer to the book source?
We talked about this in one of our episodes.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. And I can't remember which one it was. It was an early episode, and we talked about which the book was closer to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was probably our
It was in a
aliens.
research.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
our aliens movie that our aliens topic.
Yeah. So I think that we did cover it, and I can't remember at all.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of movies at this point.
But I'm glad that you and I are both on par in terms of how we felt about these films, because I think
Yeah.
that they both have a lot of value. And obviously, like the special effects in 1982 still hold up today as well. Like watching that film, it was like I don't think it could have got any better. Like definitely, I understand. You know, you could probably do some different things now, but the special effects were so fucking good.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate that film like did not get its heyday at its
Yeah.
time in theaters. Though I'm glad that it's got
No, it was up against E.T. at the time, because remember
Yeah.
we talked about that, and E.T. was a family favorite of a friendly alien, where this was like we're all gonna fucking die in a simulation.
Yeah, it was very
suck, right?
very dark
know.
and just dire.
Right, it was a little bit different, right? So, yeah, but definitely I'm glad we watched both of them, and I would recommend to anyone who hasn't seen them to watch them. They are
Yeah.
definitely a piece of horror history, science fiction history too. Probably more science fiction, but you know what? We'll adopt them into our horror family. Worth checking out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I say if you have not seen either of them or only seen one of them, go and search the other out because they are both well worth your time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we can jump on to the next movie, which is Carrie from November 3rd, 1976. On the day of her prom night, 17-year-old Carrie discovers that she possesses telekinetic powers. She puts her powers to use when she is humiliated after a prank. Directed by Brian De Palma. And then the Carrie remake from October 18th, 2013. Carrie, an awkward teenager protected by a fanatical mother, becomes the butt of all jokes in school. When the pranks of her classmates get out of hand, she unleashes her telekinetic powers among them. Wow.
Yeah.
This one, these are not like, I've seen the original Carrie multiple times. The Carrie remake was a first for me. I watched the made for TV Carrie remake with Angela Bettis before, and that was okay. But yeah, this one is pretty close. Like they're both pretty similar. The only difference that I noticed is like that makes this more modern for the 2013 one is the cyberbullying by posting the humiliation of her in the beginning on social media and then posting it on the TV screen during the prom.
I would agree, and I will tell you, I noticed the difference between the remake being directed by a woman and the original being directed by a man.
Yes.
And I say that being a female and experiencing bullying, and that locker scene was different. That shower scene was different. I like how, if we compare the two shower scenes at the beginning, or Carrie is playing volleyball and then goes into shower in the original randomly, because that's what you did after volleyball, I guess, even though none of them were really that sweaty. Being in the pool and then showering is a lot more normal. She's very insecure, and like, can we just give Chloe Moretz?
Yep, Chloe Grace Moretz.
Like, fuck, man. Like, she nailed this role.
Yeah.
And so did Sissy Spacks. Both were
Sissy
excellent.
Spacks, yeah, they were both amazing.
Both excellent Carries.
Yeah, amazing lead roles.
I did love how the thing is videotaped in the 2013, which is very much what would happen.
Yep.
The bullying seems to be a little bit more intense, and she's on the ground, very, very shook up. What I thought was interesting in both versions, the gym teacher slaps her.
Yes.
Probably wouldn't happen now, but I thought that was an interesting twist. And I noticed that in the remake, the one girl, what's her name? Suzanne? Susie?
Or was it Chrissy?
Chrissy, but wasn't it Susan in the other one?
Are you thinking the bully or the one that actually has the change of heart?
The one that has the quote-unquote change of heart.
Yeah, I think that was Susie. So in the original, I feel like she wasn't as sincere as the remake. I think the remake did a better job of making her seem more sincere. And I think that Carrie's interactions with her mother when talking about breasts and talking about how like the dirty pillows, her mom calls them the dirty pillows, because there's line for line copy over here. Yeah.
You can tell the delivery is different being directed by a woman. There's just something about it that to me, I'm like, yeah, this is more female centric. Yeah, this is more of how it would be delivered. Not the Sissy Specs and deliver it well. And this is really something I think that maybe you would only catch on to if you were a heterosexual female. And I could be wrong in that. Maybe other people did too. But I really noticed it being different.
Yeah, I did notice like slight differences. Like Because it felt like the original one was a little more unintentionally provocative in some ways.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it was meant to be that. It was like, because obviously it was just supposed to show Sissy Spacek's character as just like she's just
she seems more broken in the
yes.
original, and she seems like naive and simple and slow.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Naive.
Like delayed, I would say,
Yes.
what they were trying to present there. Her relationship with her mother is a little bit more over the top. The mother is very, like, Julianne Moore did a great job of where you see the birth of Carrie and the resentment of her having the baby, but yet she keeps the baby. I thought that was
Yep.
an interesting tie-in to have at the beginning in the remake. And when, you know, and her mother believing that Carrie entering the time where she gets her period, which is pretty late for a female to get her period, which means that she was probably undernourished. Because 16, 17, which is old as Carrie is, that's a long time before you get your period. I had my period
I was saying,
at age 14, 13. Like, that's
right. And
right?
like you see with Sissy Spacek, like she even looks malnourished.
She does, right? She looks
like
very malnourished.
Chloe Grace Moretz, not so much,
No.
but like she doesn't even look like, I think, like that's the one thing I'll say is different, like where like obviously bullying can take any shape and form and anybody can be a victim of bullying, but like Sissy Spacek like is that girl that I would see in my school that would just get picked on because she was so awkward.
Extremely awkward, right? Now, mind you, she does to open up a little bit, but I found her having that normal conversation at the prom less likely than I felt in the remake.
Yes.
Because I felt like Carrie in the remake was just shy and was nervous, but I felt like she had more confidence and knowledge of how the world works. So when she felt comfortable enough to be at prom with the gentleman that took her, it was more flowing to, like, I believed it. I believed that she would be there having that kind of relaxed conversation, and that she would be more in tune to what he was talking about, and that it would be more flowing. What relationship I preferred more in the original was Chris and Billy's. I think John Travolta, I felt like they overdid Billy in the remake to be a complete fucking psycho, which I did not care for. I feel like Billy in the original was just he was a dick, but he was just doing what he needed to do to make his hot girlfriend happy.
Yeah, he was the bad boy of the 70s, like that. Like that's like,
but he wasn't abusive. Like,
well, no, like their
remake, the guy seems psycho.
Yes, but I was gonna say, like,
right?
Their relationship in the 70s one though felt very abusive, but almost like more abuse on him.
Yeah, like she controlled him.
Yes.
And she manipulated him to get what she wanted.
Yeah, and then was constantly like just belittle him over and over and over again.
Right. And I found that really interesting. I liked the gym teacher in both, how she stood her ground and makes the girls do workouts or suicides.
Yep.
I love how I love the add-in scene of the remake where the gym teacher is with the girl that Chris, who did what, who committed the videotaped Carrie and then shared it all over social media. And how she's like, all right, well, if there's no video on your phone, I guess we don't need to worry because that kind of thing can affect college applications. And that kind of thing could really look good on the Today Show. Like, I really loved that fucking delivery of those lines. And I can't remember the actress offhand now.
I'm looking it up right now, so you can go ahead and, like, if you want to talk, I'll look it up for us.
But she was just fucking nailed it. Like, you really got behind the gym teacher in both. And I love in the 70s one where she slaps Chris. Like, I fucking love that Chris is like giving her lip and she just rears back and slaps her, which is yet again something you really could not do nowadays and probably shouldn't be doing nowadays. But those girls were just malicious. And really, I only felt when Sue came around was she felt bad in the 70s one. I feel like Sue in the remake felt bad the moment the gym teacher punched her up against the locker room. Was like, what's going on? And she's like, it's not funny. And Sue was like, oh fuck, it's not funny. What am I doing? Like, this isn't funny. Like, I'm being a dick.
And the gym teacher is Judy Greer.
Judy Greer, that's who it was.
But yeah, like I agree. Like you see the turn with Sue in the remake, like, and you feel like it's a genuine holy shit, I feel awful for what I did. And like the idea like of having her boyfriend take Carrie to the prom, like you could tell she was doing it because she just felt bad and she just wanted Carrie to have a good time. And even the boyfriend, while a little confused about it, like was still like, I get you, I'll do this, like this like a good idea. Where in the original, you were saying with Sue, like it didn't seem like it was news and Fred was like, if I have to. It just like he didn't
Yeah,
see like he was kind of reluctant to do it.
he didn't buy into it at the beginning. He at the prom though, both times they were both really nice.
Yes.
Tommy in both the remake and the original. I like in the remake how he picks her up in a limo. I think that was a nice little touch. I know it's probably cheesy for some, but I thought it was really romantic.
Well, and that's Prom.
Right? It's sweet. And Prom for now, right? Like in the 70s where you would just pick them up in their car. And I love how she in the remake she puts her mom in the closet and she locks her in there.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore fucking nailed her role as this abusive religious zealot. And you know, the kid on the bike, there was that throwback scene to both where the kid off the bike is teasing her, calling her crazy Carrie, and she sends him off the bike. Like the remake and the original were really similar. I feel like the remake just sprinkled in things like, oh, the video is playing at prom, you know.
Yep, they just added a little bit more modernization because like that, and I think that's kind of like telling of the story of Carrie in general is that the story of Carrie can be carried on from generation to generation because there's always going to be this type of high school bullying. Whether it's taken to this extreme or not, you never like it all depends on the situation and the location and all that. Yeah. But there's always going to be this type of little awkward teenage girl getting picked on and just bullied for no reason whatsoever. And like, yeah, it's a story that Stephen King wrote that it fits for every day and age.
Absolutely. And I just really enjoyed how I think in the first one, what I did like a little bit more is how Carrie experiments with her powers a little bit more. So she does a little bit more stuff around her room and being able to float textbooks and stuff. And I feel like in the remake, she does more research.
Yeah.
And yet again, I think that's just more timing, right? The development of the internet and all that kind of stuff. And I think both characters really played it well. I think this remake was really well done to reach a population group that may not love the 1976 one because it just may seem too dated. You know, the outfits may be too dated. The theme of how Carrie behaves, kind of being awkward and shy and seeming like she's delayed and not really that bright, where Chloe seems intelligent and she's quite sweet and endearing when she begins to open up to people. And I enjoyed the bloodbath in the original. I think it was great for 1976, but I love the bloodbath in 2013. And I loved the CGI. I loved the floating blood. I loved all the shit that happened. I thought it was epic.
Yes. Yeah, like like you, I really dug the original's third act with that whole prom scene, her going crazy and just wiping out everybody. But like, yeah, in the remake, you could just like the special effects, I think, really add and ramp up a lot of what happens in that, and the tension is a lot more because I even feel like that all goes on for a little longer in the remake than it does in the original.
It does. It's a little bit longer, yeah.
So you get to see a little more of the like her just getting her revenge on everybody that picked on her.
And I really love how Sue in both cases is trying to alarm. In one case, she's at the back of the gym and she comes in and the gym teacher kicks her out. And the other time she's already there and she sees them underneath the stage and she's trying to alarm the gym teacher and the gym teacher throws her out. And then Carrie shuts all the doors and gets her revenge. And what I liked about the remake is that she focused on specific people. Yeah. I really felt like there was more of a specific focus on those who had wronged her. And the ending of both were different. You know, in the original, we have Sue being the sole survivor and, going to Carrie's grave and dreaming or to the house and dreaming that Carrie reaches up and grabs her, which I thought was going to happen in the remake.
So did I. I was waiting for it.
But it doesn't. What happens instead, we get Sue being pregnant, which I think was an interesting throw in. I don't think that was necessary. I didn't really get the point of that. But I guess it's supposed to be like the sin of evil baby and teenage pregnancy. Maybe that was the thing that was thrown in for 2013. And then her dreaming that basically Carrie is coming out of her womb kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, with the hand popping up out in between her legs instead of through the ground, which was like, oh, that's a little twisted.
And I honestly, that ending didn't do anything for me. I was like, well, whatever. I think that's a small critique compared to how strong the rest of the movies are. And honestly, these are another two I put on par.
Yep,
probably
I was just gonna say
a little bit higher just because of the uniqueness of it at the time. And I think that the delivery from everyone is phenomenal, but I don't think the 2013 is far behind.
No, like they are both pretty equal to me. Like you, I do think I'd put the original just a hair above, but I could go back and forth rewatching either one of these like down the road. Like They're both really good. They're both pretty much like the same story, just with, the added elements of more modern times.
If I met a young lady at 12, 13, 14 who wanted to get into horror movies, I would probably look at the Annabelle movies. I would look at Carrie 2013 as movies that would be great entry gateway movies. Like, there
Yes.
is some blood and guts, and like in both scenes, she gets Billy and Chris, and she, fucks them up with the car scene.
Rightfully so.
Awesome. In the original where the car flips, and then in the remake where it's a little more CGI and some cool shit happens. Like, yet again, I think that was an appropriate scene to be updated. That doesn't take anything away from the value of the first one. The first scene is awesome in the first
Right.
movie, but it's great redone in the sequel or in the remake. And definitely, I think both of these movies are on par. Well, of course, with the remake, as we said, being a little bit, or the original being a little bit higher. Good movies. Recommend both highly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was very impressed with the remake on this one. Like I didn't expect it to be as good.
I agree. All right, next to the big one over here.
All right. So this is another culprit on why we didn't watch too many other movies this last time.
Yeah.
So was that?
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. So yeah, the next movie we are talking about is Suspiria from
Music.
December.
Purple lights. Lights everywhere. We like lights. Music. Sorry, go ahead.
Released on December 1978.
Yeah, I couldn't find a date. It just said December.
Okay.
So some random day in December, everyone, Suspiria got released.
Susie travels to Germany to attend ballet school. When she arrives, late on a stormy night, no one lets her in, and she sees Pat, another student, fleeing from the school. When Pat reaches her apartment, she is murdered. The next day, Susie is admitted to her new school, but has a difficult time settling in. She hears noises and often feels ill. As more people die, Susie uncovers the terrifying secret and history of the place. This was directed by the Italian maestro, Dario Argento. And then Suspiria. The remake came out November 2nd, 2018. Young American dancer Susie Banyan arrives in 1970s Berlin to audition for the world-renowned Helena Marcos dance company. When she vaults to the role of lead dancer, the woman she replaces breaks down and accuses the company's female directors of witchcraft. Witches! Meanwhile, an all-inquisitive psychotherapist and a member of the troupe uncover dark and sinister secrets as they probe the depths of the studio's hidden underground chambers.
Dun, dun, dun.
And this was directed by Lucas Guadagnino, or how I probably butchered his name.
Guadagnino, I think that sounds good.
But Suspiria.
Yeah, I don't know. Scotty, why don't you take the lead on this? I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Oh boy. All right. So these are two completely different movies. And
yeah.
Where the original is about 88 minutes long, the remake runs at about 2.5 hours.
It's a long movie.
Completely, like, obviously the setting of Germany, the ballet school, that is all there. And the whole Three Mothers Witches storyline is there. However, the remake goes into way greater detail with the story, where the Italian one is more visual and artistic. Like it's almost like flashing pictures telling you the story instead of like you hearing the story on screen being spoken.
Well, and you also put together backgrounds from other things. You don't have it. I find the remake, and I don't mean this as an insult to anyone who likes the remake, spoon feeds you.
Yes, it gives you way more than you need.
Like, and this is why she likes to dance. And this is why she went to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist is really curious about what's happening at the home. You're going to see a lot of him.
Yes.
Compare it in the remake where you see him for like 5 seconds. He comes in, he's like, yeah, I believe in witches and magic and shit, and that shit's going down.
Right, which one thing, if you look up the IMDb for the credit of the psychiatrist or psychotherapist, it is Tilda Swinton, who is also the mother of the ballet school.
Is it really?
So, yep. So she did a dual role and like got all done up in makeup to be the old man psychotherapist.
Oh man, I didn't even see that. That was pretty good. Are you talking about in the original, right?
No, that's in the remake.
Oh, that's in the remake. Okay. I really liked the original. This is my second time watching the original, and I really like it a lot. I actually really like Susie's character in this one. I find her very affable. I like how she gets to the school and like she's trying to get a cab to get her, and she gets there, and she sees this chick running away, and they tell her to leave, and she leaves. She comes back and she's like, "Hey, there was a mix-up last night." And they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry." She's like, "Well, yeah, it's not really cool, but okay. Here I am in Germany, gonna make the best of it." Like, and I find that the other characters, like that really awkward dude who she's kind of interested in, um that is kind of like a servant basically,
Yes.
how the other girls treat her, and I found that the Dario Argento was more creepy
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, because it's more I'm trying to think of the word, but it's yeah, I can't think of it. It just has this creepy sense of dread, and it is also like you are looking at a moving piece of art.
And I
Like,
felt like I was watching Germany. I felt like when I watched that, I'm like, yep, that's fucking Germany. Over the top, colorly Europe looking windows and hallways, and the pool that's upstairs, and having wine at every meal. Like, I just really felt like, I'm like, Europe,
yeah,
absolutely. Like, and the guy that's blind and his dog turns on him. Like, that scene causes dread for me. I feel really bad for that dude.
yeah.
And the subtle scareness and the use of music and the ta ta ta,
Yeah, I was like, da, 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 da,
like, it's just
da,
it's
da,
so
da,
well
da.
done, and honestly it doesn't overstay its welcome. It moves through the plot quickly enough. Yes, the showdown at the end is a little,
It's
you
a
know,
little hokey and
it's a little
silly.
hokey, but I can at least appreciate that they did what they could in 1978, right? Like, and I really dig Susie. I really dig the interactions with the other people. And some people might find that acting wooden. I found it more accurate to what Europe was like. Now, that being said, the remake, you feel like you're being privileged to private conversations.
Hmm.
You feel like you're watching an actual dance school function. And the one scene where Susie is replacing the other dancer who is accusing the company of witchcraft, and the dancer gets basically mangled, is
That scene
incredible.
is, yeah, that scene is just so, just, oh man, like I felt everything that was going on to her. Like, and they linger on that stuff and they torment the hell out of her. And
Absolutely.
and the way they use the magic by just pretty much putting it into the moves of the ballet dancers, I gotta say I really loved that. You didn't have no like gloved killer like giallo style
Mm-hmm.
coming and cutting you and killing you and stabbing you. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is all pure witchcraft magic, like just using the flow of the body to like almost like cast spells that would do it to someone else that is connected. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost awful to watch. And like it's just I feel so bad for that woman. And like, but the one thing like that, the remake is just too long. It does not need to be as long as it does. Like it could have been
Yeah.
shortened. Um,
It really focuses on the beautiful dances. And I will say that this movie has breathtaking dances. So I think where, the first Suspiria, they're at a dance school and you see them dance a little bit, but it's not like how Dakota Johnson owns this dancing.
yes.
And I think she regrained herself from 50 Shades of Grey series. So, I think she showed here that she could act and she could pull shit off. But I agree. For me, it was a little too long, but I could understand why people who, if you wanted to see this more from the dance side, and honestly, as you talked about Tilda already, she fucking nails it. Like, such a
She's
talented actress. She
yeah.
carries this movie. Like, incredible.
Like, yeah, she is
Incredible.
always everything she's in. She's an amazing performer. She just knocks it out of the park every time.
Every time.
And yeah, like and I will say the cast in the remake is fucking stacked. Chloe Grace Moretz, fucking Tilda Swinton, Dakota Johnson,
Jessica Harper.
Yeah, returns or like as a returning role.
Yeah.
Mia something can't remember her name, but she was in Cure
Mia
for Wellness.
Goth.
Yes, Mia
Yep.
Goth. I know that's like one of Dave Z's crushes right there.
Yeah, she's excellent. Like, you're right. This cast was stacked and they were good.
Yeah.
They were all good. So really, when it comes down to it, it's just a preference if you felt like it was pulled out more than it needs to be. What I feel like they did with the remake of Suspiria, they teased it. And what I mean by tease is something when you tease something to make it looser and more expanded. I think that's what they did.
Yep. Yeah, because like with the Italian cinema, sometimes the stories can be hard to follow for us that are not Italian. Like it's a different way of storytelling. So I think like, there's just like seeing this American remake definitely is like, we're going to explain everything and make it so you understand the
Which
story.
is their American remake, as we know from the Japanese ones that we've seen, or the Asian horror ones. So it's a trait that absolutely happens.
Yep, but yeah, like the short, because the way I look at Suspiria from 1978 is almost like you're watching a nightmare on screen. Like it just feels dreamlike and nightmarish. And the remake is, and that is one thing I gotta give credit to the remake. They did not try to copy the original. They went, instead of going for these beautiful colors and just every scene just being like a piece of art, it went for drab colors and very just realistic imagery of like what it was like 1970s Berlin. Like they didn't have a lot of the color lighting. Like they did use some, which I think was a nod towards the original at the like in the last like 20-minute ending. But yeah, I think that was very smart move because it makes it feel like a completely different movie with the same title. Because these movies, while like I said before, while having similar themes, are completely different in so many ways, and it's one of those that I feel is very hard to compare to each other.
I agree with you 100%. I think that it is possible to like both equally. I will be honest, this is a case where I prefer the original. I enjoy the storytelling in the original more. I liked Susie in the original more personally. That is not saying the remake is a bad film, because it is not. It's highly quality made. It's a very good. It pulls and teases out the witchcraft, the dancing, that scene of where she dies in the dance studio being manipulated with the other girls dancing it's insane.
Yeah.
I think that nothing can take away from the value that was in that scene. I just personally prefer the original because it's shorter and I didn't need it to be longer. Personally, not taking away from what that movie was. So
Yep, and I think I'm going to be going the route of Carrie on this one, where I like both of them for completely different reasons. But the original is a little higher up for me because the reason I say that is because if I'm in the mood to rewatch Suspiria, I will always go back to the original because it's easy to watch, it's shorter, and it's very palatable and just beautiful for the eyes. Like it's just one of those it's just very pleasing all around. And I mean, and plus the score that Goblin puts on for Suspiria, the 78, is just fucking incredible and haunting.
Absolutely.
And I forget but it's the lead singer of Radiohead is the one that did the score for the remake. And his score is also very freaking good. But it's just something about Goblin that I just love. And it's like so unsettling because the music comes on in certain scenes that you wouldn't expect it to come on. And it just like makes that scene where nothing happens feel very unsettling. Like, okay, something's about to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like I'm glad that we finally both got a chance to sit down and watch this remake because this was also a first time watch for us for the remake.
Yeah, it was. And I had avoided watching it because of the length of it.
Yep.
So I'm glad that I did, push past that avoidance and watch it. Would I rewatch it again? I would for a podcast. I probably went on my own accord, not because yet again I think it's a bad movie. It just isn't my jam. It's just too long.
Right. Yep. And I was saying I'm probably very close to that with you as well. Like I may rewatch that at some point, but the original will always be one that I could always go to. So yeah, we will jump on to the next movie of our topic. And that is The Fog from February 1st, 1980. Folks, get ready to celebrate the centenary of Antonio Bay, but many had suffered due to crimes that founded this town. Now they rise from the sea under the cover of the fog to claim retribution. Director is, of course, John Carpenter. And then we also have the Fog remake from October 14th, 2005. When supernatural events occur in their town, Nick and Elizabeth discover that the ghosts of a crew of sailors who were killed in a shipwreck more than 100 years ago have come to exact their revenge. Directed by Rupert Wainwright. This is also another one that is very similar to the remake is very similar to the original.
Yeah.
Has a lot of the exact same scenes. This is the one where I will say I like the original better, I think.
Oh yeah, I think the original's a better movie. I think the 2005 honestly suffered from too many 2000 isms.
Yes.
So I'll talk about what I liked of the remake.
Yeah.
I liked the party scene. I thought that was a little more accurate, that a bunch of, for 2005, instead of a fishing boat being out in the middle of nowhere. Not that I don't think people don't go out on fishing boats, but, they're out on a boat, partying, drinking, having a good time, and they run into the ship and the pirates. I thought that was a nice tie-in. I thought the scene on the boat was creepy. I thought it made sense that the one guy didn't die because his family members weren't connected back to the town. He wasn't from the town to begin with. That's why he lived. That's why he wasn't killed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't because the fog was trying to frame him. It was because he had no connection. I thought that was clever. I'm trying to think of what else I dug. I didn't think it was bad. I did like the recasting of the DJ Stevie.
Yes.
She
was played by Selma Blair in the remake and Adrienne Barbeau in the original.
Yes. So, I thought both were good. I honestly did. I thought both did a good job of that specific role. I thought the son was sweet in both ones. I enjoyed when he's at home and the fog is trying to come into the house and he has to kind of defend himself, and and they go to get him in the truck. I thought that was interesting in both the remake and the original. I understand with the remake that they tried to do this more of a twist, that Elizabeth, the main protagonist, was the wife of one of the captains, and she died, and she's been reincarnated, and they're coming back. Like I got it. Like I understood the whole purpose of it. I don't know. I don't know why they threw that in there.
Yeah.
Kind of trying to figure out, I got the purpose. I got what they were trying to do. I just didn't understand why it got put into the movie.
I feel it did not work, and it shouldn't have been in this film, personally.
Yeah.
And also the story, the difference between why the fog is coming back, because they're both where the sailors got lost at sea. One was because of betrayal. They're both because of betrayal,
Yes.
but a different style of betrayal. I forget what it was in the remake, but in the original, the betrayal was the townsfolk convinced it was a ship full of lepers.
Yes.
And the townsfolk had convinced them to go out to this certain area, and they sunk the boat so that the lepers would die.
And they took their money.
Yes, and they took their gold and everything like that. And I forget what it was in the original, but it was some sort of betrayal on the boat itself that happened with the family members. And I think it was betrayal for greed. But the one thing, like you were saying with the 2000isms, is the CGI ghost fog. I liked certain aspects of this, but it turned them into... The ghosts were basically the fog, where in the original, the fog hid the actual ghosts, which were basically drowned sailor zombies.
Yes.
And I liked that better than the CGI, the fog being the hand reaching out to grab the knife to stab somebody. And that fits more with a ghost theme. But for some reason, I like the whole drowned shipmen or the drowned sailors covered in seaweed and decayed, shambling like zombies. That has more of an effect to me as in the horror area.
I agree.
And of course, when you're comparing performances from the original to this one, you have the freaking powerhouses of Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Atkins, and fucking Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
That, and you're gonna because I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that played Tom Atkins' character in the remake was from Smallville, which is good actor, but if when you're making it so similar, I can't help but compare.
Yeah.
And Tom Atkins is just...
It was Tom Welling.
Yes, that was his name. Yeah, and I just feel the cast was better in the original. Selma Blair and Adrienne Barbeau comparison, I agree with you. They are both
they were
really
decent.
good.
I thought Selma Blair was good enough in the remake.
Yeah, I thought they were both pretty much on par. They're
right.
It just probably really depends on who you like more as an actress.
And I found Father Malone, like, in the original is kind of more of a storyteller. And in the remake, they made him, like, crazy. And that he, like, didn't know what was going on, and he was just some crazy old man.
Yeah, he was like the drunk priest.
Exactly, right? And I found that kind of annoying. And like the whole, like, I think the whole thing that threw me off was the Elizabeth thing. I don't understand why they felt the need to put that in there. Like, she replaced Jamie Lee Curtis's character of, instead of this random hitchhiker, he's driving down the street, he doesn't recognize his girlfriend that just left 6 months earlier.
Right.
And then she does that line of like, I don't know, are you weird? Like from the first one where Jamie Lee has that conversation with Tom Atkins.
Right.
Are you weird? Like, it was a throwback, but it was so poorly delivered that I groaned. I was like, oh.
Yeah, like it's just like some of the delivery of the lines in that were just like thrown in there just because they were from the original and no other reasoning. Like, the one thing I will criticize about the original is a lot of the same things happen when Tom Atkins picks up Jamie Lee Curtis, and all of a sudden all the windows in his truck just explode out.
Yeah.
Well, in the remake, they freak out a lot more because they get into like almost like an accident, and they freak out about it more. Where in this one, they're kind of like, "Oh, that was weird.
Let's go back and bang!"
And then they go and bang. I'm like, okay, it just like.
I know.
It's like you guys like get over things a little too quickly in that original one. Like I'm just like, but like, because I'd be
and
like,
he doesn't know her name, and he's like, "What's your name again?"
Well, and that's totally a Tom Atkinsism right there. It's like bang a chick you don't know the name of, and then you ask her name afterwards. It's fucking Tom Atkins.
She just like hangs out with him. Honestly, like that wasn't that bad. Like that's a small criticism.
Yeah, I'll say it's not like it's a nitpick.
And I like the Spooner guy. I thought he was funny in the remake where he's like, I'm not even from this town. I'm from Chicago. Like, I did find that funny, like where he throws in that line, like, what the and like everyone who's and I found that the people that they had to have with the statue and the woman, she didn't lose her husband. She was just more like kind of power hungry. And I kind of got confused who the mayor was at points. I'm like, is it her? Is it him?
Right.
Who's the fucking mayor, right? And I found in the remake there was a better job of the relationship being built between the mayor and what was happening in the town. I think this remake, you're right, suffered, as I said, well, we both said, suffered from the 2000isms, suffered from trying to make that connection with Elizabeth and the original colonized people that were supposed to come, like the pirates or whatever they were that got screwed over.
Yeah, and I think
I wish they hadn't put that in there. And then the kid finds a hairbrush on the shore, and there's that part where she can't sleep. Okay, the one scene I thought was stupid in the remake, there's a couple, but one that I thought was real dumb was, okay, so she can't sleep, right? So she gets up and she goes on Google, and then she looks up and she sees like the wet footprints in the ceiling. She's all like, oh yeah, this is fucking normal.
Right.
Oh yeah, wet footprints. This is cool. And then like goes out to the water and the fog is there, and then her boyfriend comes out and the fog goes away. The fog's like, oh, boys here, back up.
Yeah, right.
I want no peace, man. I wasn't hitting on your girl. Like, it just seems
it was just so cheesy.
Right. I wouldn't say it's probably as horrible as some people have said.
No.
But there was just parts of it. Like, I think they would have done better if they had stuck to the original story and they just made her a hitchhiker that ran, or maybe maybe she's new in town. Okay, you don't want to do the hitchhiker approach because it's 2005 and people don't hitchhike. Fine. She's there as a summer student doing some testing on water, and she gets connected through Nick because she needs to go out on the water. And she needs to test the water.
That's perfect right there.
Right? And she's just some chick that's there. And then while they're on the water, they find this other boat and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it didn't have to be Spooner and his friend. Spooner and his friend, like Spooner guy and Nick could have taken her out, come across a shipping boat, and they'd be like, oh, that's fishing bud Ted's boat. Where's Ted? And gone in the boat and found the body, and then
you know what you're describing?
What?
You were describing the plot of Tremors in a way.
I guess I am.
But it works so much better. Like,
yeah, right. And then it would have been, she's not family, like, but she still would have been the hitchhiker, and then he could have had his thing with Stevie, because even then, like, he banged Stevie in the remake.
Yeah.
And had this weird awkward interaction in town. Like, it was It was a total 2005ism film. It was like, all right, we're going to take the fog and we're going to add really cool supernatural stuff in it that wasn't in it the first time around.
Yeah. Like, and like, I think it like, this is where, because, we don't really like bash on CGI because it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
But this is where I got to say, like, the CGI versus the practical of the original loses its effect, because I have to say that scene, that final battle scene in the church of the original, when the one ghost pirate steps out of the fog and you see the dark red eyes glowing.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, is that just creepy?
Yeah.
Like, it is just like, that's terrifying, where I never felt that with the CG, because I don't think it was.
You never felt scared in the remake.
Yeah.
You felt like the fog was just playing games. He was like, am I going to be here? Am I not going to be here? Am I going to be here? No, I'm not. Oh, got ya. High fives. And then like in the remake, when Tom Atkins goes to the door and the fog is knocking, it's ominous and creepy.
Yeah.
And it fades naturally, not because it like comes up to the shore and then leaves, because she goes down to the water and then her boyfriend comes down and it was seriously like, oh man, the boyfriend's here, got a piece. And I just found that piece just so, anyway.
And there's another thing, I never even put the connection together, but I like this because John Carpenter just loves to do like this subtle things in the background, like that scene with Tom Atkins where like the fog is like knocking. You just see a silhouette of a shape of a man, like just standing there.
Yes.
And like that is also just like something like you just quickly glance and you're going, well, that's creepy. Like, it's just something just so small like that, but it just like, it's so effective.
And really, if I guess I'm honest, for the remake, the only things I really enjoyed about the remake was I liked how they did the throwback to the cars, like the truck scene with getting the little boy.
Yeah.
And fleeing the house. I liked that. I liked how the party boat scene. That was honestly the only thing that they added in that I was like, all right, I buy this for 2005.
Yeah,
and
it's more modern.
Dying, right? Because he wasn't from there.
Right.
Like, I bought into that. Dude's from Chicago, has nothing to do with this history. The fog's not after him. I get that, right? Like, I thought that was good, but that's about where where it ends for me.
Yeah, like
personally.
Yeah, like this would be this like, I don't know if I would ever go back and rewatch the remake. The original, yeah, I would rewatch it.
I think the remake, and also the ending with her, and we haven't even got to the cheese ending yet, where she sees the ghost and he comes up and kisses her, and then she turns into a ghost and she goes off with him, and she goes into her like old school like dress and shit.
Yeah,
like,
and the hairstyle gets different.
Oh man, it made it into this romantic story, and her boyfriend's all like, oh man, Fog just took my girl. Like, that I kind of was my girl, but I was banging the DJ on the side. Like, it was so...
When that scene happened, I just went, really, movie? We went there?
Yeah. Like, and it's a shame. I think this was a remake that could have been better than it was if it had just made some different choices.
Yeah.
Not done the whole Elizabeth Supernatural was the wife of this and connected to the ship, and here's my hairbrush that, and then it goes back and it connects. Oh, there's her hairbrush, and here's a picture of them together, in case we weren't smart enough to figure it out throughout the entire movie. Right. And I just found that really mind-numbing, personally.
Yeah, same here. It just was very generic.
Very generic is the best word to use. So, as you can tell, Scott and I love the remake and can't wait to rewatch it over and over again.
Like, I still gave it like a 5.5 because it's in that average range, but it's nothing special.
Oh, that's higher. I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it.
Like, if it's anything below a 5, means I dislike it, and I don't dislike it. It's just there.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'll give it a 5 then, because I don't dislike it either. I wouldn't get angry about it. Like, I just don't get why they went the route they did.
Right.
Like, I really wish you could talk to like the writer and the director and be like, so what exactly? Well, more the
were
writer,
you
the
thinking?
Director just directs what they're given. Like, why did you make this change? Why did you think this was a good idea? And the delivery of certain lines in this were quite painful. You thought they were playful, but they were painful. So yes, the Fog original. Nothing can touch it. Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, Andrea Barbara, like, awesome film, great special effects. You love how you think Father Mahone's gonna live. He doesn't.
Yeah,
great.
That epic showdown scene with him holding the cross and the cross being lit bright.
Oh,
like,
man,
that's so
well,
good.
And he knows the sins of what he's done, and he's trying to tell, like, he's like, I don't think we should do this celebration. They're like, well, we got all the party plates.
Right.
We bought the fireworks. works. I think we gotta go forward.
You know, there's no shark in the ocean. We can open the beach again.
Right? It's all good. I don't know what you're upset about. We're gonna just have to get over it that our ancestors were dicks. And the book that he finds at the beginning in the supernatural events, I just found like the first one was a much better supernatural ghost story.
Yes, it really was.
Ghost story. So I guess we'll move on to our final. Oh, not our final. Sorry, our last two.
Yeah, our penultimate, if you will.
Yes.
So the next movie on our list is Prom Night. Prom Night. Released on September 12th of 1980. This slasher movie follows a relentless killer who is out to avenge the death of a young girl who died at now high school students. The guilt-ridden kids have kept their involvement a secret, but when they start being murdered one by one, it is clear that someone knows the truth. Also, coping with the past are members of the dead girl's family, most notably her prom queen sister, Kim Hammond.
Which basically this whole synopsis gives away the entire movie.
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing it didn't reveal is who the killer is.
No, but it got pretty close.
It sure fucking did. But it is directed by Paul Lynch. And then the Prom Night remake was released April 10th of 2008. Donna's senior prom is supposed to be the best night of her life, but a sadistic killer from her past has different plans for her and her friends. Yes. Directed by Nelson McCormick.
So these two movies have some small things in common.
Like the prom.
There is an argument about who's going to become prom queen. That is very clear when the ladies, young ladies show up. There's one popular girl in both that is like, I'm going to be prom queen, not you.
Right.
That is a common theme. There is a bathroom. I'm just going to go to the bathroom and freshen up kill in both. Where one of the characters goes to the washroom to freshen up and gets killed.
Yep, and there's also the famous line that's used throughout all the franchise of Prom Night, which was, it's not who you come to the prom with, it's who you go home with, or something along those lines.
Yeah. So definitely, there was some shout outs, but I would argue that there was a lot more that was different. Now, Scotty used to not like Prom Night 1980.
Yeah, I was not a fan of it originally. Like the first time I'd seen it, this is technically my third time now. But the first time I watched it, I found it just rather boring. Like I just didn't care. And then I rewatched it last year and gave it much more of my attention, and I enjoyed it quite a bit more. Like I still like kind of just like it was good, but it wasn't great. And this third watch, I really like it. Like it's higher up there now. It just took a little bit because it's very character focused. And
yes.
And that is what it like I only like is the characters in this, because it takes a long time before your typical slasher stuff really even truly happens. Like till prom technically starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is a Canadian made film, the original Prom Night. Leslie Nielsen is in it, who is our Canadian treasure.
Love Leslie Nielsen.
And I do appreciate that it starts off in this old building with these kids. And I feel like that was very much an 80s movie, that you would have like this like horrible event that occurred and then someone would need to get revenge afterwards. And you think that, I think the first time you see this movie, if you're not aware of the outcome, you do believe it's that, predator that's broken out of prison or mental hospital and has come back to finish the job of the other kids.
That is kind of an element they take a thread of and put into the remake.
They do. They definitely do. I love Jamie Lee Curtis in this. I love her interaction with herself and Paul, who she's planning to go to the prom with. I believe his name is Paul. I love it. I think that they're super cute leading up to the prom night. I also enjoy all the friends, and you kind of feel bad for some of the other characters. Like there's some, like, I want to make sure that I'm saying the name right, that it's Nick and Jamie Lee Curtis are the ones that are going to the prom together. And I really like the lead up to it. And you can tell that he's feeling guilty about what happened to his sister, where Wendy and Kelly and Vicky don't necessarily seem to have the same level of guilt.
No.
That Nick does. And I do enjoy the interactions between Jamie Lee Curtis, and I think it's her brother then is named Paul. Is that what oh, Alex. Alex is her brother. So I think what I was really shocked about when I looked at this was the relationship between Alex and Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I had no idea that Alex was the killer. Even when I rewatched it, I tried to watch it with fresh eyes. I didn't think he was the killer. Did you get that vibe?
No, not at all. Like throughout the whole, like they never give you really any clues to go on to make him like even make him a red herring even, which is I think what kind of made me just a little like not a fan of that originally. Because I'm used to the typical slasher formula of though there's gonna be some red herrings, and eventually it can be like, oh yeah, okay, I can see why this person did this, but like I didn't like see the lead up to that and it threw me off. But like I dig that there was that relationship between them, and like like you were saying, and like just the relationship between all the main characters in this movie. That's like you could tell they were friends that went through something, but they were trying to move on. Like especially her girlfriends were all definitely like just all right, let's get the hell out. Let's forget all about the past.
Yeah, and what I really found interesting about this movie is at the end where you find out that it is Alex. It all made sense.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need the red herrings to lead it up to make me think that.
Right. Like I don't get you don't need it all the time. And like just if you're doing a good storytelling, then you shouldn't have to do a red herring and all that. Like you can just leave it a mystery. And I love that.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that piece of it. And I really think that this film the original Prom Night anyway does such a great job of the kills and the relationships, the running through the school, all that other thing, all the other stuff that happens in it. It's a great 80s slasher. So we have the Prom Night from 1980, which is very much a slasher, as we were just saying, that represents the 80s. How would you say you see Prom Night 2008?
I feel that this remake of Prom Night is very Lifetime thriller. Obviously more rated R because of the violence that they ramp up in this one, but it just has that like glossy, clean feeling to it that you see in all these Lifetime movies with a typical just bland story where it's like who the killer is right from the beginning. Like they don't make any qualms about hiding who it is. They show his face, they show everything, the motive behind it, it's all there. Besides main character who I thought did an amazing job and him murdering her parents and him coming after her, like after he escapes. I feel like the other characters are just throwaway. Like there's just nothing to them. They're bland.
I would agree with you, Scotty. I think that the other characters, you didn't have enough time to build relationships with them. Basically, we get a relationship with Donna, and we understand that Donna has been stalked by her teacher, and then her teacher has been locked away because he murdered her entire family. And she goes to this prom night with these other kids, and you get the impression that she has a super nice boyfriend, and they get this pretty ballin' hotel room for a bunch of fucking 17-year-olds. I was pretty jealous because I wasn't getting hotels rooms at all when I was 17, nor would my parents let me stay in one.
Right, especially with your boyfriend being right there from prom.
Probably would have happened, but that's fine. I can forgive it that this is a fantasy, right? And then they have those real slow-mo dance scenes. Like I felt like they were trying to do a shout out to the dance scene in the original Prom Night.
Yeah.
But only the original dance scene is a lot better than this like throw out to like 2000 isms. I do like the kids enough at prom though. I think if this was just a if they called this grad night dance or something else and didn't try to connect it back to prom night as a reimagining, it would have been a fine enough slasher. It wouldn't have been great. It wouldn't have been something that I would say to people run out and see, but I would say this yet again would be a nice little introductory horror film for teenage girls.
Yeah, because I didn't hate this. Like it's just a little, just when you're comparing it to the original, like we're doing for this show, it just it's not as doesn't have as much of a punch.
No, and like the kill scenes, like the one kill scene that's probably the best is where the chick is her best friend Lisa is underneath the ends up in the basement. Because she realizes who the teacher is there at prom. So we should say the teacher shows up at prom. He gets out in the mental hospital, and the police are informed 3 days later that he's on the loose. And like, there's just so many stupid things that happen in the film. But Lisa's running underneath, and she gets killed by him. And slowly but surely, he kills off all the girlfriends, not killing off the boyfriends. Strangely enough, just the girls get killed.
Yeah.
Which I didn't quite get, and Donna gets stalked again. But my favorite throwaway line, so basically Prom shuts down because this guy has stalked all these kids at prom, and Donna's boyfriend calls his parents. So she's living with her aunt and uncle. She's been relocated to live with her aunt and uncle since her parents died. And he's like, hey, I called my parents and told them what was going on, and they said it's okay if I spend the night. And they're like, of course. All right, Scott, would you let your fucking 17-year-old kid be like, hey, people at prom just got murdered. The ex crazy teacher is after Donna. I'm just going to go back to her house and chill. Would you let your son do that? No.
Nope, I'd be like, I am coming to get your ass right now.
And you were coming home, right? Like, this isn't like, oh, one of our friends had a seizure and died at prom. Okay.
Also, let's just, you brought up something that I brought up in our chat that I almost forgot about. Why did, when all of this shit happens with the teacher killing everybody and they get her out of the freaking hotel, what do? The cops take her back to her freaking house where he knows where she lives.
I know. I don't get why they didn't take her to a safe house, or they didn't
take police station,
or the police station, or anywhere else.
It's like, yes, let's put you right back in the spot where he can come and find you. It's like, protect her, take her to the police station. What are you doing?
And I think this just shows your point to being a Lifetime movie, because that is something that happens in Lifetime movies. It is not any kind of logical, but the whole thing of them not being informed that this dude got out, he massacred an entire family, including a little boy, and no one's going to alert her or the family that he got out and is fucking chilling and chasing her. Come on now. But if I turn off my brain and I watch this film, and I watch it from the outlook of a basic, simple slasher, that if I was, bored on Saturday afternoon and just wanted to watch something that moved along that was bubblegum for my brain, I probably would watch it. If I wanted to show it to a 13, 14, 12-year-old young lady who maybe wanted to get into horror and wasn't ready for other stuff, I maybe would show it. Do I think it's would I recommend it to people to watch? Probably not.
No, this, yeah, that's just one of those where it's if I was flipping through cable and it was on, I'd be like, fuck it, and just throw it on.
Yeah.
That's just,
it's like a guilty pleasure.
It kind of is.
It's like that chocolate chip ice cream that is bad for you. Or not, no, because chocolate chip ice cream is good. I don't know. Think of something that's like a Twinkie. I don't know, something that is really not that great for you, but you kind of just want it, and you kind of just want to
you just have that craving for something just simple and
yeah. And that's what Prom is.
It pretty much is. If you can't tell, we both enjoy the original way more.
Oh yeah, the original is very good, and I think if they had remade it, and even if they went with this plot line, I think they just could have done things a little bit stronger. But it's not an unentertaining movie. It's just you can't compare the two. So yes, obviously the original is a much stronger film and stays with you. And the ending scene when Alex is dying is heartbreaking and sad, and you feel bad. You don't really get that at the end of Prom Night, because the boyfriend does get killed and she has to fight off, and there's a really lackluster scene between her and the police officer. Kind of just ends there. It's they were all right, we're done with filming this shitty movie, we should just stop it now.
Right,
is basically what happened. So hopefully it gave some of those young actors and actresses a start more than anything else. That's the only thing I can really wish for them. That they started this movie, they had a good time dressed up in prom clothes and pretty dresses and shit like that for a couple hours. Or what about okay, last point. On the Prom Night remake, those young girls are in the elevator. They're 17 years old. And
oh my God.
Fucking creepy 25, 26, 27-year-old dudes are fucking hitting on them.
Yeah, talk about coming up.
Or they were almost 30. They looked old.
Yeah, they were businessmen that looked like they were at a business meeting at a hotel, and they fucking just hey, we're going to be having a party up in our room. You should come up there after the prom. And they're oh my God, you fucking sleazeball, disgusting pricks.
And I will say the girls in this movie did a good job of looking like they were in high school. High school seniors, but they looked like they were in high school. They looked young, and that was fucking unnecessary to me. I'm what are these creepy pieces of shit doing hitting on young girls? It's not like they look like college chicks that okay, I could buy it. Maybe they're in college, they're 20, 21 years old. These look like fucking 17-year-olds, and that's disgusting.
What I was hoping to come from all of that, it's fucking disgusting. But
you gonna kill them?
Yeah, I was hoping
that. Oh man, me too.
Yeah, well, see, what I was hoping is that, after, the killer is revealed and she sees that the teacher guy is back, she ends up running to that floor to escape him and finds the party. And, the guys are all drunk and hitting on her. And the teacher sees it, gets psychotically jealous, and starts killing everyone in that room.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, that would have added to it a lot more. Because then you'd be like, yes, those sleazeballs fucking got it. And it would just add it to the body count. But because I so thought they were going to be brought back in at some point as a way to just add up more body count.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah,
that would have been excellent.
That would have been a much better ad.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So bottom line is, I would not recommend watching the Prom Night remake unless you really like 2000 movies. A lot.
Or you're like us suckers that just like, you know what? We've seen the original. Let's watch the remake.
Exactly.
So the final set of movies for our topic tonight is Maniac, which was released on December 26th, 1980. A traumatic childhood leads to a deranged mama's boy on a gruesome killing spree on the streets of New York City. New York City! Directed by William Lustig. Then Maniac from 2012 is a remake of the 1980 film of the same name and follows the violent exploits of a brutal serial killer, directed by Frank Calfaun, and I have to just add this in, but was written by horror director from French horror director Alexandre Aja. And the first one the original stars Joe Spinell as Frank, and then the remake stars Elijah Wood as Frank. And once again, this is one of those remakes where it's totally been modernized and in a way gentrified, since it's a much different style of New York City.
Yep.
But like the storylines are very, very similar, but the way it all plays out is very different, and the way it is filmed is very different.
Yeah.
Like the way the remake is filmed is a first person perspective of Frank's character as Elijah Wood's character, where you just see a lot of just his hands and not him unless he's looking in a mirror.
Yep.
Or in certain aspects where when he becomes the killer, he has that out of body experience where the camera pulls out and turns around on him and you see him doing the X, which is how I took that, is when it pulls away from the first person. It's like you're leaving the body as the killer is taking over. But man, these are just two of these movies that I just find to be freaking excellent. Like, I'm not even sure how to begin, because like in the 80s one, it's very grimy and sleazy. And Joe Spinell is just gross and sweaty.
See, I didn't find him gross.
Like, I mean, it's just like the sweatiness makes him look gross when he's freaking out, because there's certain points where he's killing and it's like that up close picture of him like zoomed in and he's just like sweaty.
I guess so. I honestly, though, strangely enough, I actually found him quite endearing. His relationship with the main woman, I wanted to look up her name. I was too busy reading about him.
Caroline Monroe.
I
don't know her main character name, but
I really dug Anna. I really dug their relationship, or their budding relationship that was on its way. I really liked him. Obviously, he was engaging in some pretty fucked up shit, but I felt sorry for him, because he clearly felt remorse afterwards.
Yes. That is the one thing that I love about this original. It is a very deep character study of someone that has been traumatized and the lasting effects on someone that is not stable enough to cope with them. And like, obviously he's just vile and evil for what he does to some of these people. But when he meets Carolyn Monroe's character, and like you could tell he's actually attracted to her, and they go on that first date to that really nice dinner, like you can tell he is trying his best to be as normal as possible and not let like his urges take over. And you can see like the anxiety in him as he's starting to get uncomfortable, and you're like, you're just rooting for him to be like, just move on, you can do this.
And I will be honest, what I liked in this one compared to the remake is that dinner scene, Caroline was much more likable. Anna in the original or in the remake isn't as likable. I did not find her as likable as I did of Anna in the original. I felt that she had more pure intentions in the original.
Yes, because I was say Carolyn Monroe's character, like and Frank, they have this like romantic connection that you're like, yes, I can see, like you want, like you can see this happening. Where in the remake, there's obviously that romantic connection they're trying to give, but I see Anna in the remake more as like she could be his best friend, but like it's just like I didn't feel the romance there.
Yeah, but he wanted there to be a romance.
Yes, exactly. And that's where that one stumbles a little bit for me.
And I agree with 100% with what Dave C said when he reviewed this movie. Like how she fucking throws in that she has a boyfriend in the remake.
Yes.
Was pretty shitty. Like
Yeah.
she let him on. I really think she did.
Oh, she absolutely did.
And that's kind of turned off a little bit of the remake for me.
Well, I'll say, and she was manipulative because she used him basically for his mannequins.
Right. And I don't think she was purposely trying to use him.
No.
But I think she conveniently left out that she had a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, I don't think women have to disclose everything who they're with or whatever. And if it wasn't a super serious relationship and she was willing to engage in a romantic relationship, like, you know, whatever the case may be, I don't see the point of bringing it up at all. But if I felt like she was like, oh, you want to have a drink with my boyfriend? Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds like not the most fucking awkward thing in the entire planet.
Especially when we just had this intimate connection here.
Yeah, no, not weird at all that we've been like, you know, hanging out and doing all this stuff. And, you know, you asked me about my girlfriend, but never mentioned. So, which made me think she probably had feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
But what I liked about Frank in the original is I just felt like there was more guilt and that the urges would come and it was like it was someone else doing it. And then he would regret it after it was done.
Yes, like because Elijah Wood also his character does that as Frank as well, but with Joe Spinell, though, I feel he did it better.
He did. I don't think Elijah Wood felt that bad, and I say that because in the ending scene when he does kill Anna,
yeah, no,
like, you're blaming the mannequins.
Yes, because you're correct. Because he's actually in because he's turned it into a because yeah, you're correct. Because Elijah Wood's Frank is very narcissistic, and he's like turning the blame on his victims, but in his head he's thinking that it's his mother, so he's turning the blame on her. Look what you made me do. Look at this. Like he's angry at his mother. Where Joe Spinell's character in the original is more like, why are you doing this, Mom? Why did I have to do this to you? You didn't like, and you can see he breaks down in tears and he's like just so distraught over what he's doing. And that's the thing, right? He's much more endearing. Don't get me wrong. I like Elijah Wood's performance. I think the scene with that chick and he goes, you know, meets her for dinner. They go back. She takes off her clothes. She has a mirror on top of her ceiling, which sounds like a life goal for me. I dig that idea. Right?
But yeah. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. But I liked that. I liked the filming of it. I liked Elijah Wood's performance. It takes nothing from that film. I like that he runs a mannequin shop. I thought it was really cool, but I prefer the original because I bought more into Frank. I bought more into his relationship with Anna. I hate that scene in the cemetery where he changes because I feel bad for her. I feel bad for him. I feel bad when he goes home and he's, you know, basically overcome by the mannequins where you could tell he feels guilty. I also felt like he was less weird in the original. Like I felt like he could carry conversation more and he wasn't so awkward and he was like, you know, a little more charming and I don't know. I liked him a lot more. Like I honestly dug that character. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, and this one,
I wouldn't mind if he took me out for dinner. He's not that. Like Elijah Wood, I'd be like, you're a fucking weirdo. I'm not going anywhere near you, you weird ass person. But like,
like it's like he portrays a different style of Frank, which is like why it's hard for me because like but I will say the one thing I like you had brought up that cemetery scene. Like it just felt like he snapped out of nowhere so fast, and I wish that didn't happen. Yeah. Where in the ending, like when he accidentally reveals to her like about her friend,
how he knew that the friend died, in the bathtub, which she was a bitch. So I got why he killed her. Like I feel like in the first movie too, he didn't kill people that were bitches. Like in the remake, some of the people like I'm like, well, yeah, she was kind of nasty. I get why he killed her.
Yeah, like that's what I was gonna say. Like I like that ending for the remake because like in the ending of the remake, he's just like trying to comfort her and like pretending like, oh, I didn't kill that person, but he's trying to comfort her. and then he accidentally lets it slip, and then like that's when like she was smart enough to pick up on it, like, wait a minute. And I liked that because it built up that tension, and then like his obsession with her, like I liked it there because it was a more gradual like realization, where in the original it just almost was like, oh hey, I did this, and then I was like, oh shit, like so it that part I'd have to give credit for it. And like this is one of those tough ones for me because I love both of these movies dearly. Like they are for different reasons completely. Like they are just like I love that 80s griminess of like what it looked like in New York at that time. And like it's very like it looks real, like you're watching a serial killer documentary.
I agree with you 100%. And I think I agree with you that both films are filmed so differently and have values to each. I think what they did with the remake, though, is they made it their own. They took a true readaptation. They kept with the basic bones of the story. So you would still be like, all right, like I can still understand the story. I get the story. I think Elijah Wood made the character his own.
Yep.
I do enjoy how the girls that he killed, like even the chick leading the club was kind of bitchy. And then the girl that he kind of goes back to her house. She seems kind of, you're unsure of her intentions with him.
Yeah. Like she almost came off as a little too friendly.
Like it almost came off as she was an escort.
Yeah. Like she was good at, like, I was waiting for her to be like, all right, that's $100 now.
Yeah. And I feel like in the original, like he just chooses a nurse that's leaving work. And chases
like he has no like reasons for who he picks a lot of the time. It's just someone he sees.
And they're more remorseful because they're not bad people.
Yeah.
And I feel like, not that like the chick that he went home with was a bad person.
No.
She just wasn't like as endearing. She was hot, great, but she wasn't as endearing. And I think that was the difference of these two films. But both extremely well done. In both situations, they give the impression that he dies, so he opens his eyes at the end of the first Maniac.
Yep.
And I think they both, honestly, this is another one where they're both on par for me. I think that I personally just like the original a little bit more because I just like the casting a little bit more, but that doesn't take away from how good the remake is.
Yeah, because like I think the slick, stylishly cool looking version of the remake, it just fits with the new age of New York City, and like it's very gentrified style. Yeah. And like the filmmaking kind of matches that, and the fact that it's all about the art house style exhibits, which is totally New York. And like oh yeah, we're gonna make mannequins, like this whole do an art museum thing of this mannequins. It's like, yeah, only the weird artsy type would be thinking of that in New York. Where and then you got the grimy look of the 80s. Like it's just, they're so different, but yet like the stories are so similar. Like the original Maniac was before I had seen the remake, this was like when I just made a list randomly, but the original remake was in my top 5 of all time horror films. And now I would probably put them both at my top 5 because I could not pick one that I like over the other. I like them both so much for just different reasons. Like they are both like right there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they're both strong films, and I recommend checking either one out. So we covered off some major remakes. Obviously, we didn't cover off all remakes, and just kind of talked about the difference between readaptations and remakes, and staying with the original stories and moving away. We have examples of like where the Maniac or Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of took their own flair to it, I guess you would say, keeping things similar but also adding in differences, particularly filming styles. Or you have stuff like Prom Night or Nightmare on Elm Street where it completely redid a story.
Yeah.
Which are interesting, that those are probably definitely two of the least liked, or The Fog, where they added in something that probably didn't need to be there in the first place. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been an interesting journey with looking at these remakes and why they're done. I definitely think when you're looking at a remake, and so if we move into out of our dark segment, and if I were to look at, and I'll let Scott think about this as I talk. If I were to look at things like, if you're looking at doing a remake, what should you think about? I think you should think about the length of time. When was the original made? how long ago was it made and what can you do differently? So if we look at The Thing, for example, there was enough time there that there was more that they could do with special effects. So they could do the whole thing jumping from body to body to body without, they could have done that in 1951 as well. They were able to do that in 1982 and make it look good. So I think time is important. Or in Carrie, where they were able to kind of throw in more of the social media piece of it, a little bit more of the modern, like you recording it on your phone, and a modernization of Carrie perhaps having more knowledge, more knowledge about breasts, also known as dirty pillows, which I thought was really funny.
I like me some dirty pillows.
And we all like some dirty pillows, don't we? I thought that was really well done. And I think that's important. Like, are you going to modernize it in a way that makes sense? Or are you going to throw something into it like The Fog, where you feel like you're retelling a story and adding a romantic piece in there that, you think that maybe audiences didn't care about the first one because there was no romantic piece in it? Well, maybe it wasn't needed. Maybe you didn't need the romantic piece. Maybe the romantic piece or the relationship was just the planet or the town versus the fog. I think that's an important thing when looking at remakes. I really think there could be a killer Cujo remake. If I had the money and I had the power and the focus and the knowledge to write, I would love to write a remake to Cujo. I have a great screenplay in my head, in my little Heather head, on and even an opening scene that I would not back down from, that I would insist that I wanted in that film. Where I think I could make it more modernized, that people of today would buy into the story a little bit more. There's a different way that I would film it to make it a little more interesting for people like me who didn't find it interesting. That's where I see the importance of remakes. If you're going to do a remake, you need to make the decision of what the purpose is. What do you think, Scott? Is there anything that I said that resonates with you, or something else that you would want to think of?
Yep. Well, right off the bat, I do agree. Like when you're doing a remake, it's good to modernize it in a way that makes sense and will be relatable to the audience of the time, especially if it's a film that's anywhere between 20 to 30 years old. Like, it's going to be a completely different time, so things are going to be different, and you got to find a way to implement those into the story. One thing I want to bring up is, especially like if you're looking at doing remakes, and you want to keep to the main story, like the original Carrie and the Carrie remake. If you're going to do something like that, make sure it is a story that it can last till can span the end of time. Because, like I was saying, the story of bullying is always going to be relevant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you can find like a story that has a theme like that will be relevant in this day, then don't really change much except for modernize it.
Yes.
But if it's something that's just does not work for this time, you're going to need more than just modernizing it. You're going to need to change the story up. You're going to need to do something different, but while keeping certain pieces of it together. This is where the Prom Night one failed. They did try doing something different, but they did not keep enough to tie it in and make it fleshed out and make sense.
Kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street 2, right? As much as we didn't hate that one,
yeah,
it does kind of fall in the realm of it tried to be too out there, and the script didn't make a lot of sense. And similar to the Prom Night one, like there were just so many holes that you were like, okay, guys, come on. Like, come on now. Like, your audience isn't that dumb. Like, can you kind of make this look like it at least makes sense and the decisions make sense?
Right, exactly. Because and once again, the Maniac remake and the original, it's like they kept that story, but they fleshed it out and modernized it in a different way. Same with the Suspiria remake. They took the idea and fleshed the hell out of it.
Yes, they fleshed out and they explained it. And and yet again, we're not saying that's a bad film. For me, it's just too long. It's same.
Yeah, I was saying that's kind of what you got to do, like for things like, especially like Italian films, for especially from the 70s and 80s, for an American audience now.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as relatable unless you're a film connoisseur or just like a fan of horror. So like you would need to do something a bit different to make it more like Americanized.
I agree. Yeah.
Like it's like, there's always like the remakes we didn't get to, but like one that I felt was a very, very pointless remake was Funny Games, because it is not only done by the exact same director, it is exactly scene for scene, word for word.
So why did it get remade?
because the original was German and subtitled, and he remade it with American actors in English, and it was the exact same movie. Like the only difference is you had Naomi Watts as the mother instead of like this German actress I didn't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like I mean, both of them were good movies, but at the same time, I'm just going, but why? Why? What was the point of this? Like those are the types of things you got to be careful about. Like, I ain't no fucking expert, but at the same time, like I know what I like when it comes to remakes, and I love it when the remake tries to do something new, like at least add a little bit of something to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good guide for making remakes, because remakes, as we said, can bring new people into the genre. It can help keep copyright. It can be a great cash, a guaranteed cash revenue so you can make other movies, or it can bring new love back to the genre, or maybe introduce you to a film that you see the remake, and maybe you go back in time and you watch the original. But yeah, it has to be done properly. If not, then it's a big waste of time.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree 100%. Like that's what's been fun about like exploring all these and comparing them to the originals. And like, I'll even bring it up with Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary remake tried to do something different. Whether it worked or not really depends on the person. For me, it didn't.
Yeah.
But like I know some people, Lance, love it.
And I don't mind it. Honestly, yeah. I didn't hate the Pet Sematary remake. But I don't hate a lot of remakes. We talked about the ones that I wasn't a huge fan of. And yet again, I just don't watch it again. If I really didn't like it, I just don't rewatch it again.
Right, exactly. That's how I look at it.
Right. So it's been a very interesting discussion. So we'll see where remakes go. There's been that rumor floating around about The Exorcist being remade for 2021. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I've seen so many different conflicting resources on that.
Right.
So I guess we'll see. If it's remade, it's remade. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And one day maybe I'll get to remake that Cujo movie that I've been dreaming about. We'll see.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All we gotta say is, who's a good boy?
Who's a good boy? I just want to work with dogs. That's why.
I know you do.
Right? That's really what this is all about. So thank you for listening. Next time we will have a very special guest on.
Yes, we will.
Someone who is inspirational in the podcasting community, and his name is Dave C. And he will be
Joe Pesci.
Or Joe Pesci. Many of you will know Dave C from his very impressive podcasting resume, including Exploding Heads, the ABCs of Hidden Horror, Banana Laser, and the Skeleton Crew. So Dave C has definitely a wealth of experience, listens to everyone's podcast, as well. I should mention the What C Party. Those are his two current pieces of work that he's doing, which is Exploding Heads and the What C Party. So we are looking very forward to having Dave C on. That episode is going to be a lot of fun. Yes. And we'll get definitely Dave C to talk a little bit about his experience with podcasting and, definitely get his thoughts. He's definitely not shy, so he'll be definitely open with sharing what he has to say.
Yep, and it'll be such a blast to have him on, and it'll be so much fun talking the topic, but we'll keep the topic secret for now. Yes. But it'll be fun, and I think people will get a little chuckle when we talk about it, just because it's been heard before on our show.
Absolutely, and it's basically we're just making fun of Brandon Orlick. No, just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, that'll probably happen.
That'll probably happen, but so... Anything to say before we peace out there, Scotty?
Yes, I want to just give out some plugs to go check out the Legion Podcast Network. As Heather said earlier before our break please check out all the shows, and whatever ones you like, please, like, share, subscribe, rate and review, everything that helps them out. Also, we did those 2 commentaries for the Legion Podcast's Patreon page. So if you are not a patron yet, why not? It's only a couple dollars and you get awesome content, and we're going to continue releasing more fun content for that as the months go on. Also, please check out our very first episode of Controllers Up, Cards Down, the All-Star Gaming Podcast. We will be happy to, I will love to hear feedback from this, and we hope you guys enjoy this as something different, especially if you are a gamer of any type. Please give it a listen. We are all just a bunch of nerds, and we just love to talk nerdy things. And we also have a Facebook group for the Friday Nightmares podcast. So please go and ask to join our podcast group on Facebook. We also have a Controllers Up, Cards Down All-Star Gaming Podcast Facebook group. So once again, just please go ask to join and we'll let you in. But yeah, that is all the plugs. So until next time, unpleasant dreams, or the remake. Until next time. Unpleasant dreams.
Such a nerd. Oh my god. See you guys later. Bye.
This'll keep it quiet. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you. You caught me cutting a new show. I'm Bo Ransdell, and I'm one of the many creators you can find on Legion Podcasts. I said quiet! My fellow podcasters and I work hard to bring you the best in horror podcasting, but that comes at a cost. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Not that, but also yes. No, what I'm getting at is that there are server costs, costs for good microphones and software for editing, all the things that make our shows, fun to listen to. And you can help. If you're enjoying the shows on legionpodcasts.com or in the Legion Network available on iTunes and Stitcher, just about anywhere you can download a podcast, really, you can help us out and get a little something for your trouble at patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. For just $2 a month, you get a pair of movie commentaries exclusive to Patreon, and for $5, you can also join us for a monthly screening of a movie. All of that available on patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. We appreciate it, and thank you for listening. Now, back to the cutting room.